very warm and a pleasant good morning to one and all present over here to the second day of the online international conference on COVID-19 pandemic and world tourism, hospitality, trends, challenges, and future prospects, organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Patna Women's College, Autonomous. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the IQAC, Patna Women's College, I, Alok John, Assistant Coordinator of the IQAC, Patna Women's College, feel privileged to host this session. I gladly extend a warm welcome to each and everyone virtually present here. A gentle reminder to the participants, those who have not logged in with their registered name, to log out and log in again with their registered name. Kindly type the questions posed to our speaker in the Q&A box only. These questions will be dealt with after the completion of the speaker's presentation. To evoke God's blessings on us, let us listen to this bhajan and experience the divine within us.
Sarvesham swastirбhavatu, Sarvesham swastirбhavatu, Sarvesham shantirбhavatu, Sarvesham shantirбhavatu, Sarvesham purnam bhavatu, Sarvesham purnam bhavatu, Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu, Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु।
This outbreak of COVID-19 has brought the world to a standstill, and international tourism has been the worst affected of all major economic sectors. The landmark report of WHO, published at a time of unprecedented disruption for the sector, shows that almost all global destinations have imposed restrictions on travel since January 2020, including complete bans on all travel as they work to contain the pandemic. Against a backdrop of this heightened uncertainty, there is an estimated loss of 850 million to 1.1 billion US dollar international tourists, resulting in the revenue loss of almost 102 trillion US dollar. The need is to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 crisis in international travel and tourism sector and accelerate recovery. Without much ado, let me take the privilege to introduce you to all the guest speaker of the session, Professor Francis Ageko from Employ NZ Tertiary Institute, New Zealand. Professor Francis is a PhD in finance from School of Accounting, Finance and Economics, University of Waikato, New Zealand. He did his teaching and consulting in the fields of financial inclusion, economic growth of developing countries, econometrics, and financial management. He holds expertise in developing and delivering learning and teaching for a range of delivery modules, including face-to-face and online platforms. Dr. Agekum is a recipient of Valley View University Ghana Vice Chancellor's Award for Young Scholar and African Economic Research Consortium grant. He serves as a member of the American Economic Association and Accounting and Finance Association of Australia and New Zealand. A widely traveled scholar, he has been published several articles and book reviews and successfully completed research projects of various countries. Sir, we are grateful to you today that you are present among us. I now hand over the session to our honorable speaker, Dr. Francis Ageko, to proceed with his presentation. Dr. Francis Ageko.
Thank you, John. I am humbled by the introduction. And I would say, Prahat, I don't know whether I got it right.
Suprabhat.
Suprabhat, yes, that's right. I meant to say good morning to you all
good morning.
From India. Yeah, even though here is 5:37 in New Zealand Standard Time. As I share what I want us to discuss this morning, I want to quickly acknowledge and appreciate the invitation from my good old friend, John. I've known John since 2012 when we both met in Hyderabad for an international conference at IPE Center. Those days, it used to be at the Osmanu University. Now, I understand they have relocated. And we have since touched base with each other as and when time allows us. And so it's always a good feeling that we could look for each other and then also share ideas together. And I want to thank the organizers for this novel understanding and ideas to bring all minds together virtually, that COVID will not still break us from dialoguing and thinking from academic and intellectual space. So kudos to you and well done for this organization. My task is to discuss the economic impact of COVID-19, specifically with respect to the tourism and hospitality sector. And so in doing this, I am going to focus specifically on New Zealand because that's where I am, and perhaps we can use them as means of understanding what could be going on around the globe, and of course in the case of India and other places. And so the quick outline of the presentation is that I will start with the global perspective briefly, and then we'll move quickly to New Zealand impact, and then we discuss policy matters that could be used, and of course, conclusion. The global economic impact from the civil aviation perspective is quite phenomenal. Of course, we know that traveling has been curtailed, and recently I just learned that India has started opening up for the domestic travel. So if you see from International Civil Aviation Organization, that I'm sharing here, you could see around the globe from America, North America to Asia to Africa to Middle East and all in between, the number of, the percentage of traffic, air traffic that has been impacted, and number of billions of dollars that has been affected by that. And as if the international comparison were not enough, we can see from the domestic perspective also that the global impact has also hit the domestic economy. in terms of the aviation, how many people can travel to go transact businesses, and how much money that the aviation can generate, and as high as 90 billion, has been impacted. And it's projected to be 151 billion US dollars for global domestic travel effect. That's how much the aviation sector will be losing the result of that. Okay. And in terms of tourism, if I want to narrow down, zero in with the tourism, international tourism is currently affected, as at the time that I got the data, 300 billion, but it's projected to be $450 billion around the globe put together. And ladies and gentlemen, this summarizes the effect, even from aviation perspective, the COVID-19 on travels and tours and hospitalities and so on and so forth. I like how United Nations World Tourism Organization Secretary General Zurab put it. He said tourism has been hit hard, and exactly what John said when he was introducing us, with millions of jobs at risk in one of the most labor-intensive sectors of the economy. Of course, we don't need any reminder that tourism is labor-intensive, because wherever you go, you need a tour guide. You need somebody to prepare food. It's not a sector where we could mechanize and use machines and robots to really offer services. And we also know that, of course, COVID-19 affects human beings, not robots. And so a sector that depends on labor, like the tourism, it's right that Zurab has summarized it in that way. Moving from the global perspective to New Zealand, where I am, I want to start by, excuse me, saying, for the sake of those that wouldn't know where New Zealand is, around the globe, you see the arrow, that's where we are, very remote. And if you look at the red map over here, that is New Zealand, so remote from almost everywhere. And that also, of course, closer to Australia, this Australia, that also presents a unique opportunity, which I'll show you shortly, in terms of the beauty of the nation, as people call it, the hidden paradise, and how the COVID-19 has really hit the nation so hard. So let me give a quick background as to how things unfolded in respect of New Zealand and how we responded. On the 2nd of February, there was a travel ban on all people from mainland China. And on the 12th of March, WHO declared global COVID outbreak. It wasn't pandemic yet. And on the 19th, the New Zealand government announced strict border measures stopping all but New Zealanders from entering the country from 12 midnight. And so you could follow how things were unfolding. And finally, on the 26th of March, there was a nationwide lockdown. So until on the 12th, only international tourists couldn't come in, and Air New Zealand, which is the national carrier, got affected significantly. And so the domestic one could still operate. We could go and visit other sites and places. But on the 26th, there was a complete lockdown nationwide, which also affected the domestic tourism so hard. And so talking about the lockdown, still moving from how New Zealand has responded, on the 28th of April, the lockdown was lifted from the level 3 to the highest level, that is the alert level 4. And on the 14th May, domestic travel was permitted again. So if you look at 26th, 28th of April till 14th of May, it's about 6 good weeks that both domestic and international tourism were hit hard in this country. However, on the 14th of May, they started opening the economy because we started recording 0 cases consistently. And well, it started from 1, 2, and then 0 for the past 1 week or so. And so the government felt that it was time that we should open the economy back again to revamp the domestic tourism and also the domestic flights for New Zealand, Air New Zealand to be able to work. And in all this, we should still picture the possibility of no one coming from outside. And so as I speak with you this evening and your morning, nobody can come from outside of New Zealand. So international tourism flow remains 0, and experts predict uncertain future. We don't know how it's going to be like. And in terms of New Zealand, for those that have not had the opportunity to Google, New Zealand is surrounded by, well, it's made up of 2 islands, 2 main islands, and a smaller one called Stewart Island. And so it's surrounded by beautiful sceneries, and therefore it's mostly a place of attraction to people from all over the world, especially from China because of the proximity. And the sector contributes 20% of the country's export, 10% of the GDP, and supports almost 400,000 jobs, according to Tourism International Industry Aotearoa. Aotearoa is another name for New Zealand. It was a local name here. And somebody will say, okay, 400,000 is very small. By the way, New Zealand is only 5 million population, I beg your pardon. So 400,000 is about 8% of the entire population, which is quite significant employment generation that the sector contributes. I might not necessarily talk so much about the details of it just for the sake of time, but you could see the red marks pointing towards. That is how the devastating nature of COVID-19 has been to domestic and international markets for New Zealand tourism. And so just focus on the negative, the arrow red signs, and it tells the stories. But as a more perspective, like I said, it contributes about 9% or 9.8 to GDP. And the direct contribution to GDP in terms of monetary value is about $16.2 billion. And indirect is about $11.2 billion. And so it is a sector that is an integral part of the New Zealand economy. How did this progress? How did we see the impacts of COVID-19 on this sector that has been contributing to this beautiful country? You could see the graph. The fact that this research was done by the body that looks at the tourism in New Zealand, that is Tourism Industry Aotearoa, New Zealand Tourism Association. They did business survey to see how the COVID-19 has impacted the tourism sector. And I want you to just focus on the long bars. Some, the first one, the green one says, have been reducing and are still considering reducing staff. And some are saying they have to find a means of reducing costs. And the fact that they're going to use government subsidies and potential incentives to be able to stay in business is also there. And some will be going into borrowing. And so that impact, even as at May, that this research was done, early part of May, tells us that the impact is still ongoing and can be devastating. And so according to that survey, about 78% of the respondents are taking major steps to adapt to this new environment, and about 33% are considering going out of business. They are in hibernation because the future looks bleak. The economic outlook is not looking good for them. And about 40% are doing downsizing in terms of their size, the operations, and their capacity, and 21% in dire need of capital to survive. That summarizes the effect, so to speak, of this COVID-19. And more of that from the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment report, comparing March 2020 to March 2019, the national visitor expenditure fell by approximately 29% compared to the same time last year. Domestic expenditure also declined by approximately 27%, and international expenditure also declined by 30%. What that means is that COVID-19, if you are earning 100, for example, $100 million, you're now going to be receiving, as at March, you're going to be receiving about 70 million, a significant amount of money that is lost. In terms of employment, the volume, the silence that you see on your screen speaks volume. I don't need to comment. And I was very excited to see India opening up the domestic side of it, but cautiously, which is very cool, as I watch in Al Jazeera. And in terms of the aviation sector, the national carrier is called Air New Zealand, and everybody will agree that they are the hardest hit because they move people about, and also they move the tourists about, both domestic and international. And so they are projecting to lay off about 1/3 of their staff. And in the short term, they will need about $900 million to be able to keep their staff afloat if they really want to get their staff around. Otherwise, they'll have to go out in terms of employment. And they are needing around $3 billion as industry experts project to be able to get back to their feet. Well, somebody will say that, yes, now that they are grounded, then they are not using the aviation fuel. And so, yes, some experts also say that about 23% cost savings is coming from there. But most aviation experts say that the airline is meant to be flying because that's where they get their money. So every moment that they are grounded, every second that they are grounded, they are losing a significant amount of money. And so we may not compare the impact with the cost savings in terms of fuel that they're not using. So what is the hope for New Zealand in terms of the aviation? The government is thinking about conceiving a strategy with Australia and other island countries around us here, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and so on and so forth, Vanuatu, and so on and so forth. And that is what they call trans-Tasman bubble. So from short to medium term measures that they are taking, that seems to be going to be having, giving them some kind of hope. Because if it happens that New Zealand sustain the 0 recordings daily that we've received, been receiving for the past couple of days, about 2 weeks, and Australia's numbers are down, then the chances are that within Australia, New Zealand, and surrounding islands, we can start seeing some short hauls among ourselves. And that gives some kind of silver lining for the aviation sector. But moving away from aviation sector, I want us to move to policy side and the micro-macro dichotomy to see where we can learn some significant lessons. We know that in most economic discussions, we want to distinguish between microeconomic agents, that's the household and businesses, which we often call the private sector, of which we can see the tourism small businesses that operate in tourism, catering, and hospitality, the hotels and motels. That's the private sector. And then we talk about the macro sector, which is the public. But most often we leave the middle ground, which is what we call meso agents. Okay, and that could mean the banks, the Reserve Bank, and of course the commercial banks, the insurances, and the local government councils. How would they play a role in all this? In the paradigm that I'm going to show shortly, we will see how the meso hold the whole bricks together. Because if we leave the debate between the micro and macro, we realize that we'll be falling short. Because at the end of the day, it is these banks and insurance and local government that charge the rates and charge the rent and so on and so forth for people that borrow to invest in the hospitality and aviation sector. For sake of time, I just want to move on. I hope we will not keep that long. So building beyond the lockdown from New Zealand perspective, how do we understand the dynamisms? Do we understand, do we need to focus on the domestic or the international? So let's just briefly look at the demand side phenomenon or occurrences. Okay, one, even though New Zealand has not recorded COVID-19 infection in recent past, I mean, for the past couple of days, we can't expect individuals, the household, to be able to, I mean, you know, open up and go and visit places. There is that fear factor, the concern over their safety. Are we safe in visiting those places? That's the first concern. The second concern at the demand side of the tourism services is the fact that people are going to be concerned about their pocket because they have lost jobs. And so they're going to prioritize their budget, and leisure will not be priority. Leisure will be pushed to the background. And so some of the policy concerns that we could see governments doing in trying to allay the fears of the safety concern that the individuals would have is that providers or the tourism operators must do everything possible to assure and reassure the public that they are going to keep them safe when they come. That also imposes significant cost to them, because imagine when somebody leaves a place and somebody will have to sanitize, and therefore you need more people to be doing that, and hand sanitizers and so on and so forth. So that assurance must come from the providers, the supply side, but it imposes significant cost to them. Another supply side policy that could be seen in this regard with respect to people not willing to spend, because of course, if I'm losing my job, or I'm likely to lose my job because of COVID-19, or I have lost my job, I mean, holiday is something that I will not even think about. Or visiting places is not something that I would think about. What are the policy considerations? Government can give a stimulus package, what we call the helicopter money, which is like distributing equal sum of money to all taxpayers within the economy. But somebody will say, okay, is that not waste of money? Yes, it could be, if, as I'm going to show in the paradigm, if that money is saved. But if that money is spent, then it's going to inject more spending within the economy, and it's going to put the economy back on its foot. However, in trying to narrow down to the tourism sector, we cannot be sure if the money that the government is handing down to us will be spent to sleep in hotel, or to go and visit the national park, or to go and do some activity that will boost the tourism sector. So I am proposing a scenario where government will say, okay, every household, every taxpayer is entitled to $1,000. However, spend it on tourism related sectors. It can go for a hotel, it can go for a picnic somewhere and so on and so forth, and produce receipts for it. That way, we could be targeting the tourism sector, and it could be injecting some kind of hope into the sector again. And also what has been proposed around is introduction of a temporarily extra public holiday. So we've got a couple of holidays in New Zealand here, about 2 extra holidays per year, so that people can have use this leisure subsidy to go for holidays and spend. That way, the domestic side can be looked at. How about the supply side? Some businesses are in hibernation, as I said, the outlook looks bleak, and some need capital injection, and some need cash flow. What do we see the meso-economic institutions, bank, local government, and councils to be doing? Like I said, in most cases, we limit the debate between economic to the micro and then the macro, leaving the middle ground. If we think about the rate that has to come down, it is the local council rate that has to come down. Recently, they interviewed some dairy owners in mostly they are of Indian and Asian descent. Their major concern was that the rate that the council is charging is still the same, even though they have not been operating for the past 6 weeks. So that it comes back to the meso-economic institutions, local government council. Can they give them some kind of rebate, some kind of holiday or amnesty, so that they wouldn't have to pay the same rate as though they have been operating all this while? Okay, and also for the struggling firms, we know that most of these dairies and small operators rent a place. And so how can the renters, the landlords, give them some kind of amnesty or some kind of break in terms of how they should pay their rent? But remember, the landlord is also paying the bank of the mortgage. And so it comes back to the meso-economic institution, bank. So if we could see these middle institutions to give the micro, that's the household, of course, and the small firms, some kind of breather, in my humble view, it could make a lot of difference in terms of allowing the small business, tourism business to operate well. And of course, government special incentive package for the sector, like the wage subsidy for staff, which has started in New Zealand, could be extended, will be very much appreciated, and the sector will benefit. As I draw down quickly, I am showing some trend of tourism revenue, which can be seen as expenditure from 2016 to 2019. And we can see that it has been growing over the years. But if you watch carefully, the blue lines that you see, if you could see that clearly, represent the domestic tourism. And the lower line represents the international tourism. Raising this so that we see where all the policy interventions that I have talked about should be directed towards. Do we have to do more to have the domestic tourism or the international tourism, or both? So in terms of figures, this is how they stand. Okay, so domestic tourism in New Zealand, contrary to what could be happening around other places, exceed over the years the international one in terms of the revenue generation. And so if I want to give you some figures, when we come to the domestic, we see that the household sector, the individuals going to visit places and sleeping on hotels and other things, constitute about 77% in 2016, compared to government and business combined 23%. So remember the last slide, I said that the domestic income flow, tourism revenue, see the international. So if it comes to pecking order, the strategy should be focusing on domestic. Now I'm in this present slide, I'm suggesting to the audience that looking within, we can also see where attention should be focused. And thus, you look at 2007, 17 as well, 97% of the tourism revenue generated came from the household, individuals going to have good time around New Zealand, and just a little from government and businesses. The difference is, it's not different in 2018, and it's not different in 2019. And so, in terms of what we want to be seeing, you could see the household, using the retail service, services that the tourism small businesses do operate, compared to what the government and then the international, people really have been patronizing. So this is really giving us just an idea, and that was 2016. The story is not different in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to suggest so far is that if I happen to find myself in a position to advise the government, one, the focus should not necessarily be on international tourism. Of course, no flight is coming in after all. And two, even in looking at the domestic tourism and the stimulus packages that can be given, the attention should be focusing on what I talked about, boosting people's income. For example, the helicopter money to allow people to be able to spend, because that is running the sector. And so it's basically giving us, the rundown. So for the sake of time, I just want to just move on quickly. Why timely intervention matters. We know that a weakened tourism sector now will be very devastating to the future demands when the economy, comes back to light. So if the government doesn't strategize and intervene strategically now, what that means is that in future, when there's more domestic demand and international demand for tourism side, provided the supply side will not be able to respond to the demand. And so it's important that they save the tourism sector now before it is too late, through the stimulus package that we have discussed so far. Okay, so some of the stimulus package that the business survey highlighted is the fact that government is subsidizing. About 93% of respondents receive some government subsidy to help them stay on their feet, and that is highlighting the significant role of government in all this. And also 30% require some kind of tax relief measures, which falls on the meso-economic, the middle ground, the city councils that could give them some tax rebate and a special loan, a targeted loan or grant that should help. New Zealand used to have a policy where every visitor, tourist that comes in, have to pay about $33, if I'm correct, towards a fund, and that contains about $45 million. That is the International Visitor Levy Fund. And so people believe that there should be a levy, grants that should be coming from that. And also tax and rates should be reviewed to favor the sector. Now, as I draw the curtain, I want us to see how all that I've said come to light in this basic income flow, which I call it basic because if you do economics, some of these things are just quite basic. Okay, so let's picture the private sector, the micro sector, the household, and the businesses, including tourism, hospitality, and aviation. We want to expect that the income will be flowing to these sectors. How? Through labor, land and capital entrepreneurship skills that the household supply to the factor market, which serves as input to these firms. Of course, they use these factors to produce goods and services, that's hospitality services, tourism services, aviation services, and it becomes the finished goods and services to the household. And so, in terms of the revenue that flows, because the household will supply their sector, focusing on the outward flow, we see that the businesses will spend, that to them is a cost, but to the household that supply the labor, the land, capital, and entrepreneurship, income that's going to be getting. And so if they spend this on, for example, goods and services, including the tourism sector, then we want to believe that it will become as a revenue to the firms, and so they can also spend it on the household, and the household will spend it on the businesses. So there will be a circular flow of income, and the economic activities will be rejuvenating. However, so this is what I'm talking about, leaving the other details out. The revenue will be flowing, income will be flowing in a circular manner between the firms and then the household, the private sector, the engine of growth where tourism from demand side and from supply side, positive. When we bring government in the picture, we see that governments give subsidies to the household and of course the firms, and also takes tax from the household and also from the firms. We know that tax will serve as a leakage from the circular flow, because the higher the tax, the lower that is left for the businesses and then the household to spend to let the economy stand on its feet. And of course, the more subsidies given, those subsidies therefore becomes an injection into the flow, which is what is needed. And so all the policies that I've talked about and then the evidences from New Zealand are just being conceptualized into this basic economic paradigm. Now, I am going to be bringing the one of the mesos that I talked about, the intermediaries, the banks, into the picture. If the government hands this cash, which we call, the helicopter money, to the people, and they save it in the bank, it becomes a leakage out of the spending stream. And so the banks, the firms will be denied access to this. And that is why I proposed earlier on that if the government is of giving the money to everybody to spend, which some will save because they don't know whether they're going to be employed the next month, will defeat the purpose and the sector will still be struggling. So that's how come I propose that they should insist on spending to come and claim. That way, we don't expect the money to be leaking out into the banks, but rather it will still be flowing and the economy will be working well. However, in saying that, we could expect the banks also, lending more. And so as I speak with you, the cash rate in New Zealand is close to zero. The central bank cash rate. So lending rate has fallen to the lowest for the, compared to the past 50 years, it has never happened in New Zealand. And that tells you the significant role that these mesos play, for example, the bank. And so, in conclusion, there is no universally quick fix approach in solving the effect or the mess that COVID-19 has brought to the tourism sector, of course, tourism, hospitality, and aviation. And so, from what I've discussed with you so far, intervention must be targeted where impact must be significant or should be significant. We can't just say, okay, everybody should come up for this money when we don't restrict them on where to spend it. And also, we expect, as the government has started doing, more stimulus packages, even around the globe, which is the supply side, stimulus packages for the small businesses that operate in the hospitality and tourism sector, and also incentive for those who demand this tourism in the form of cash subsidies and so on and so forth, so that when the supply comes, the demand should be able to be there. And of course, the significant role of the central government cannot be underestimated. And finally, the meso economic institutions can be very strategic at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, I will say namaste and thank you very much for your audience. And that is our presentation for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Francis. Indeed, it was very enriching and compelling presentation. I now invite Dr. Pallavi, Head, Department of Business Administration, to express our gratitude to Professor Francis Ageko.
Thank you, Alok. The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention. It's my great honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of the entire fraternity of Patna Women's College, I extend a heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Francis Ageko. Sir, I express my deepest sense of appreciation for your influential and powerful message and for connecting with us all the way from the Southern Hemisphere to the Northern Hemisphere. Your session has been an enriching experience, all supported by facts and figures strongly, how COVID has affected tourism in particular and the economy in general, with millions of jobs at stake. But you have rightly said, sir, that COVID cannot stop us from virtual dialogues and intellectual sharing. We do hope sincerely that this impact is over soon and we are out of this hibernation and aviation is able to make money in the skies soon, as you said. With sincere thankfulness, we take leave of you for the moment in the hope that we have your cordial presence, not only virtually, but actually as well in our future endeavors. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you, Francis.
Sir, most welcome to Bihar for a tour when things are normal.
Thank you. I'm missing my chicken biryani already from Hyderabad.
Hyderabad, we have a special litti for you in Bihar.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you very much then. I thought I was going to be expecting some questions, but that's all good.
Yeah, there will be some questions, I think. We'll just check if there are some
questions. There is one.
There is a question, sir.
Professor Francis, there is one question. What are the major attractions of tourism in New Zealand? There's a question from one of our participants. They are very curious about knowing the major tourist attractions in New Zealand and what stimulus packages and incentives have been provided by the government in New Zealand for undertake this COVID-19 pandemic.
I'm sure the second question has been answered, the wage subsidy and so on and so forth. Yes. But the helicopter money is still on the table. The government is still considering that. Okay, so that is the kind of stimulus package. In terms of tourism attractions, some call New Zealand the hidden paradise. It's beautiful country with beaches, with hot thermal, pools around that people come from all over the world to come and just relax in it. There's a place called Rotorua that has got a lot of that. And because we are closer to the South Pole, if it goes further south, there's a place called Queenstown. It's just beautiful, the topography. And so New Zealand is synonymous to tourism. And so I want to challenge my friend that asked the question to just Google and just go to even Google an image and see the site for yourself. It's just incredible. Right. That's amazing.
Another question.
And there's another question, sir. What are the situations of the people living in the bottom of pyramid in New Zealand, particularly those who have their livelihoods from the tourism sectors? Like in India, I tell you, you have been to Hyderabad. We see a lot of auto rickshaws and taxi walas from this northern part of the country. Now it's already locked down and they have lost their livelihoods. They are walking barefoot miles to the country. You may be seeing in the international news all over. So what is the situation of the periphery there in New Zealand?
Thank you, John, and thank you to the questioner. It's very devastating and very depressing for most people. And as I said from the presentation, if you have about 93% of the small businesses operating in the sector needing government subsidy, wage subsidy to be able to keep their staff, it tells you. And our heart is bleeding in New Zealand because there are two sites that's so nice and, they announced closing and the government said, hold on, let's see what we can do to help you. So even the bigger sites are closing, let alone the smaller ones that provide like catering services and so on and so forth, the taxi drivers and so on and so forth. So I agree with the questioner that these people are struggling, but the government has that, recently there was a budget spread and about 50 billion COVID stimulus package has been set aside, and significant amount has been allotted towards the tourism sector. So that is the silver lining that I did talk about. But it's not good enough to just look at the suppliers, because they can supply all the stuff. But if I am being austere with my spending and I push my leisure to the abyss because I'm going to lose my job or I've lost my job, then it's of no use even if you give them all the incentive to keep their staff. The demand should match up with supply. And that is where I want to urge the government not to stop this helicopter money, not because I'm expecting mine, but because it will allow us to visit places. I mean, I can go to any other place that I want to go that I've not visited before. If I'm not going to pay for it myself, you know, if I can pay for it and claim the money back, and in that way, it will be helping those smaller businesses.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So we all pray that once the situation brings to normalcy, we would be able to meet each other in physical presence. And let's hope that we all are safe in this situation of pandemic. So stay safe, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. And thank you, professors, for your audience and for your contribution questions. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye for now. Thanks.
Okay,
Bye. Bye.
I would now like to hand over this session to Dr. Pallavi for the next plenary session. Dr. Pallavi.
This brings us to the end of the plenary session 3. Without wasting any time, we now move forward to the 4th plenary session. So welcome once again to the web conference on COVID-19 pandemic and world tourism, hospitality, trends, challenges and future prospects, organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Patna Women's College. It's well said, a courteous treatment will make a customer a walking advertisement. This is the theme of the plenary session 4, Hotel Industry and Hospitality Sector. I consider it an immense pleasure to welcome our esteemed and enigmatic resource person for the 4th plenary session, Dr. Bimal Kumar Ekka, a hospitality academician and trainer with over 25 years of experience. An enthusiastic teacher with forte areas in marketing initiatives, talent acquisition and retention, strategic alliance and networking, program development and forming corporate policies and procedures. He has also served as the principal of ITM, IHM Navi Mumbai. Dr. Bimal Kumar is presently associated with Narsi Munji Institute of Management Studies, Global Campus, Navi Mumbai. He has been spearheading development initiatives pertaining to hospitality courses in different locations of ITM Group, ITM University at Raipur and Vadodara. I now invite Dr. Bimal Kumar Ekka to kindly address the session. I request the participants to kindly mute their microphones. In case of any query, you are requested to kindly drop them in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. Questions will be addressed once our respected resource person is over with his session. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Pallavi. And this has been a real pleasure to address the students of this particular event. Especially thank you to Dr. Sister Rashmi for inviting me, and of course, the entire Patna Women's College. I've been born and brought up in Patna. I know about this Patna Women's College a lot. So it's very nice to be, getting this thing to be associated again. So we'll not waste much of our time and we'll start with this presentation. So here, just to support my presentation, I have my PPT. This thing, hospitality industry has been very much affected, definitely, along with the tourism has been definitely affected due to COVID-19. And everybody has got this question right in the mind, which is actually bringing them into this. What will happen to the hospitality industry? Will it sustain the current crisis? We have been hearing a lot about, job cuts, salary cuts, number of small outlets being closed. They are curtailing their expanded business, number of destinations are going down. But let me tell you one thing about the hospitality. One of the greatest thing about the hospitality or the hotel industry, if I have to say, they have gone through each of this thing in the world. World War I, World War II, tsunami, depression, terrorism, droughts, everything in the world. And you know what? We have always come out of that. We are so resilient that we will bounce back again. And this is what I'd just like to quote Mr. Farad Samal, is the Vice President Operation of Taj Hotels. We have always come back bouncing. There's another thing that the history, if you all Google around and see, you'll always come to know the hotel industry or the hospitality's boom period has been the World War II. That was the time when the entire world was moving here and there. They were meeting each other, and all this traveling actually led to the boom period of hospitality or the hotels. Now, here's something that I really like to come back to you. I know all of you have heard this thing, this breaking news and thing about this 20 lakh crore rupees, right? So how many zeros are there? Let's check it out. There'll be around 7 and 7, my God, around 14, 15. Yeah, 15 zeros with that. 2. It's 20 lakh crore rupees, or almost 10% of the national GDP. This was recently announced by Prime Minister as the COVID relief fund for entire country. There's something why I have quoted this particular figure. I'll tell you is because of this. If you have ever known, the total contribution by tourism and hospitality sector to India's GDP is almost 10%. That is the same amount that we're talking about, 20 lakh crore rupees. And in another fact is that in 2019, around 4.2 crore jobs were created in tourism sector. Now, when I say tourism, it also includes the hospitality. It'll all come together, right? That is around 8.1% of the total employment. Just, I'm not saying I want to do this thing, kind of comparison, but just to enable you to understand what we are talking about. This 10% of this GDP, or almost 20 lakh rupees, is 20 lakh crore rupees. Is, let's see, in 2019, the budget for education was 3% of the GDP. That is 4.3 lakh crore rupees. And defense, 2. That makes only 5%. Do you understand? And what did the tourism and the hospitality industry did was giving double of that. What I want you to understand how important this particular sector is, how much it is relevant to our GDP, our economy, our contribution towards the economy. Then, of course, the question asked by everybody is, but let's talk about the future. But there is a future, and we will definitely bounce back. And we'll come back to it very soon about it. Future forecast about this is that international tourist arrival is expected to reach around 30.5 billion by 2028. I'm not saying exactly what will happen the end of the year or the next year, but I'm just forecasting the future. Another is that foreign, if you're going to look now, then the foreign tourist arrival for medical purposes will increase. Definitely, India has been able to prove at this challenging times also that it's Vedic. Their, our own medicines, the Ayurvedas and all, they have been much better. And this is further gonna increase the arrival of foreign tourists in India. Another is that right now down, I agree, but in another 4 years time, you'll find Indian's aviation market will be world's third largest. Yes, we are growing at a good speed. And when it has been halted for the entire world. And when we start again, and we are definitely poised to become the third largest by 2024. Another about the future is about technology and skills will go hand in hand. This will also lead to a multitasking thing in the industry. I'll come back about the multitasking much better when I come to the hotel operation system, how they're changing due to this COVID. Let's see some other figures. Yeah. Now, there has been, this is something, yes, it is there this is in the news and we all are aware of this. We have not been given any particular data about it. Yes, it's not the time when the data of this can be revealed or it can be published. But we know the world is angry with China, and around almost 1,000 foreign companies are moving away from China. They are moving. And in future, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, quite a number of them will come to India. There has been a talk about one of the leading sportswear company or shoe company, which is stopping its operation in China and is coming to India rather than in Uttar Pradesh. Of course, the name of the company, due to the political reasons and all, has not been made public right now. But all these foreign companies, even if half of them come to India, what will happen is we'll have more business, which will lead to more traveling, which will require more accommodations. Accommodations, definitely hotels or other places, the hostels and all those stuffs. Yes, more accommodation will be required. Our future is not that bad. If something stops, in India especially, something stops, something does start again. If a restaurant is not working and people are not going to a restaurant, there will be something else which is going to take part of it. That is the best part about this hospitality. And we are looking at the online food ordering and otherwise kitchen, or what we call in our terms as a cloud kitchen. And in this particular challenging time, we have seen that the cloud kitchen is there to increase, and they are supposed to increase by almost 35%, which is a good number, 35%, and it is estimated that it will be around, by the year end, it will be around $3.5 billion business. And this has been actually shared by kitchenrama.com. They are the people who are involved in making more cloud kitchen. Of course, post all this the coronavirus and the COVID challenging time, there'll be increase in B2B business model. The B2B business model is the same where the cloud kitchen comes lot. Another is that online market in India is estimated to increase big time. People would be at times refraining from going to malls, to the shops and all, but they would be ordering it online. It's supposed to increase or take a jump of 60 billion US dollar. No, they are presently at 40, they will touch around 100. And this we are talking of the financial year, we're looking at 2020 till 2021. And food ordering would be one of its major component. So I know there is a grim situation all over. People are talking about our jobs going out, the salaries being cut, all those stuff. That's okay. But there are venues, other ways where we're gonna branch, the hospitality is gonna branch and bounce back. This is another question that we are always looking at. Will people still travel? and especially leisure traveling. You know what? It's true. The world will change. Even if the vaccine is there and the corona pandemic is over and medicines are there are no more corona, but still the world will change. That means people will change their habits. And that is the need of the hour. You know, rather than getting scared, we need to modify our living style. Our behaviors need to change, right? So traveling, whatever condition would be, we will travel again. We start slowly. Here, what the time, we'll start with traveling to the neighborhood first, then we'll travel in the city, state, the region, country, and finally the world again. And a lot of people would be saying, are you sure about it? Because I don't know how many people will actually travel in the world. They're so afraid they have been stuck. But I'll tell you, there are places in the world where I want to be. I want to be here. I want to be here in this place. And I want to be there. Pilgrimage is another big important thing for us. I want to be there. Whatever the reason, my traveling, my behavior, I'll modify, but I'll be there. I will not be at home. In fact, cruise liner has been badly hit. I think the worst hit on this particular would be the cruise liner. And yet, CNBC has reported, and especially, there has been lately a surge in inquiries into this voyage, a small cruise liner. It is known as a Rascal. I don't know why they have named that. This is in Indonesia. And a lot of people from US, UK, Europe have been asking, and it seems that they are now being overbooked. And this is as by CNBC. So people are ready to travel. I know they will modify themselves and travel. They would do. One of the things, I'm sorry about this, one of the things we've been talking about is one of the most hit areas of the coronavirus, or the COVID, has been Europe. We have been seeing how many people, how badly Italy has been there, Spain has been there, France, UK. But yes, we will start coming back to it. And these are bouncing back and from this particular pandemic is towards the hospitality first. First, the restaurants and the eatery will be open. This is one of the estimated that we've given about in BBC News about the restaurants opening in the entire Europe. Even if it's not over, they are opening. Modified, yes. They are looking at the social distancing, hand washing and all. Everything would be there. If we're looking at the travel, it will start slowly, but it will start domestically and it'll have different kinds of things. You'll have social distancing, the PPE won't buy, middle seats will go vacant some places. There'll be temperature monitoring everywhere. There'll be disinfecting and cleaning of the planes. There'll be segregation of areas where you can travel, contactless check-in and all those things, but we will go ahead. We look at the cruise liner also. Cruise liner right now, they're not opening. They'll take some time, but they will look different when they come back. Cleanliness, social distance, and testing would be their most priority thing. Testing would be, before you are about to start your cruise liner, you will be tested. A fast and accurate coronavirus testing would be very essential over here. So if you're tested negative, you get inside, of course. There'll be another thing which will be very important for all this hospitality, cruise, as well as aeroplanes and hospitality is the reduction in the passenger, reduction in the routes or the numbers of day. And yes, this will also lead to the reduction of the crew and the staff. This is where, when I had earlier said about the multitasking and the skills and the technology will come together. So the new technologies, what we were looking at is voice activated, touchless check-in. You don't have to touch, you don't have to give your papers, all things will have digitally, happen digitally. Our luggage would go through the tunnels. We would go through the sterilization tunnels. The passengers will go. And of course, just like for the precautions, they'll also have, especially the cruise industry will have quarantine areas and adequate amount of airlift in the emergency. These are the operation. Why I'm telling you this? Because these are important, telling that we are gonna bounce back. We're not gonna sit and let any pandemic take it all away from us. And hospitality is not one of the things. It is resilient and it will bounce back again. Here how the hotels will look. Maybe they'll have a time for their swimming pools. Maybe they'll not have the gymnasium open. But yes, one of the things that will never happen now would be reduced, would be no buffets. The mask, the sanitization, all these things, social distancing, this all would be a very common thing. Most of the places you'll have robots or technology taking place. There'll be other parts also. So I'll also go into that details about the hotel operation. Most of us are very confused about it. How's hotel going to operate? And especially for example, am I going to in a room where somebody else was staying for 2 days, and how they have cleaned it, how they have sanitized it, and now I'm going there. Pro-COVID era, we were there, of course, the changing of the bed sheet, the mattress, the pillow covers, and all those things, dusting and all would have been sufficient. And that was the norms to do about it. But what happens now? How do I go in a room where somebody was staying? Yes, that is a big question. I'll just have one thing to share with you. This is what a new protocols for accommodation units have been given. And this is by the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. It talks about all the rules and the regulations that the accommodation units or the hotels will need to follow now or adhere to. There are a number of pages, and all I can definitely share with you all what it has to say, but my point right would be to go through the PPT. So in all together, what they are, the general precautionary measure that needs to be followed right now would be the temperature monitoring and screening, social distancing, face mask, must, all these things. These are all everywhere. And in India, one of the other thing is IQAC app that needs to be done. So all of them would be looking at all these things that need to be done. This would be in the airlines, this would be in hotels, this would be in trains, it would be in buses, it would be in cruise liner. All this hospitality in operations would all be this. There'll be another thing that need to be done, especially for the associates, that is the staff member, is to keep to monitor their temperature. And what they are suggesting that every 4 hours during their job, shifts are generally for 8 hours, every 4 hours they need to do the frequency of temperature monitoring would be more. So every 4 hours they need to do, and if their fevers should be down, otherwise they will be asked to go. There are personal protective equipments, we all know about it. If required, they're gonna be used. Now, what are we looking at is how the hotels would be operating. So there are a number of hotels we have taken out. I'm using this one pictorial. This has been done by the Sheraton Hotels. I'm using this just for you all to understand it more better. And definitely, these are all based on what the government rules and the regulation of the operations have been given. So we start right from the starting is when we pick up the guest in the hotels. So all these cars would be disinfected by fog monsters or machines, and after certain hours they'll be used, and no more than 2 guests. And if there is a family, it could be a kind of somebody, maybe 3. There'll be all this mask, the hand sanitizers, and all this protective gears will be available in this particular vehicle for you. So, and there'll be also a temperature check, and all those things can be done over there. When you check in the hotels, you would be given a kit. Each hotels will give you a kit, which will include a face mask, wipes, and all those things. And maybe, you know, in airlines in foreign countries, they have already started giving thermometers also, a personal thermometer. So here in the check-in, you'll have a kit which will have all this necessary things. Hand sanitizer at various places, mostly at the check-in places, temperature screening, and contactless check-in and all. And of course, for the social distancing, we'll come back to our ethics of namaste and not shaking hands. And we can also do khambagari or other as required, right? All these movements inside the hotels will also be protected, marked. You know, those circled for the social distancing, you have those circular demarcations and all these things. Lifts will have a different policies of number of guests who can go inside. Now we are also coming in the technology where most of the lifts are being converted in a way where it can be operated with the feet. So you can press the button or the places where you want to be. And while you sleep or while you're staying there, we'll have the hotels will have a periodic cleaning, entire guidelines. Every places they will have different wipes and sanitizer and whatever. Another thing very important, when you are in the room, you'll have a menu cards and all those things. Yes, you'll all have a digitally where you can order digitally, you can see the rates would be there, and you can order for your IRD. The IRD would be in room dining. Right? Then of course, inside the hotel, one thing that we need to be looking at would be social distancing, right? Even when we are into some kind of conference. We are also looking about associates. It's not only about the guest. We need to also look about the associate and keep them protected through everything, right? So their temperature, their monitoring, the proper kits given to them, the mask given to them, the facility of hand wash, sanitizers, everything would be looking. And about the surrounding. Here, regular disinfectations, laundries would be thermally disinfected. Your food products in the kitchen would have the process where it will be washed properly to the required amount. All this dedicated hygiene things would be there. They all have spaces. They're about contactless experience, how you pay, how you check in, how you order. So you need not you have to be in contact, or even sharing your cards. Sharing the cards also would be reduced. Cash would be almost no. It will be no cash transactions. And of course, there will be a quarantine center also, which will be outside the hotel nearby in case if required. Think about dining. Here what we come most. how would we dine? I think most of you have got a lot of small videos in your WhatsApp where they say there is a plastic screen and you're looking at, you're sitting with your friend or your spouse, and there's a screen and you do not, so you protect each other, and somebody is serving you with the long sticks. Well, those are just assumptions, but yes, there'll be less people in the restaurants. And one of the things will go off would be the buffet. So there'll be no buffet, and you will not be, rather, the buffet is going to come to your table. So you can have a screen, you can have a tablet, you can have some digital means that you just see your buffet on the table, and then you order, and somebody's going to come and serve, because less number of people at that particular point. The idea is to reduce the high touch point or areas. Those are frequented by many people, right? Then, of course, in fact, if there is an event also, there will be a business events. So we will be looking at sanitized amenities like pen, papers, calculators, pads, and all this. Menus would be set. There would be set, there would be simple, and there would be lesser amount of it. And all the settings arrangement will be redefined. There would be a distance between all. Then we have we spoke about the associates. Yes, associates, most important apart from checking their temperature, and it will be a comprehensive training on safety and hygiene. It's very important that, and there will be a kind of, COVID certificate, or, something like safety and hygiene certificate given to the hotels, as there'll be a compliance where all the staffs are knowing about it. They know about the social distancing, they know about the sanitation, they know about the safety and the hygiene, the disinfections, they know about what is being done in the hotel and which are the areas they need to be careful about. This all are to be taught over here. This is a very important thing, and it will be added apart from the skills and the knowledge they're required to run the hotel or to be in the hotel. This was definitely what I was saying by the hotels of Sheraton. They have shared with us, and a lot of people have been asking me these questions, and I don't know if you have a question. If you don't have a question,
Sir, one of the participants has asked that with so many changes taking place in the hotel industry in India,
yes.
How do you view this in the Indian context with such a large population?
Yeah, I was telling you this. The very first thing is that we need to get started. We are starting. In fact, we have started, and going forward is that definitely when avenue stops, the another one takes up. That is, the cloud kitchen would be there. So if those people, if you're looking at the people who have been, let's say, fired, we can use this word, fired. We are now looking at least that we have started, and it will take around end of this year when we'll be more comfortable. This gradual traveling, which is starting right now, will induce the confidence in others to travel more. So it's not gonna be just tomorrow. It's a gradual take. I understand what the question is will this actually come back? Yes, it will come back. And domestic tourism will again take up. And it's gonna be the first one which is gonna take up and have a good response, building up the tourism.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one more question.
Yes,
With
please.
all the changes that is taking place and so many positive things that you have said, that how the hotels are going to look after these changes. So, do you think that in how difficult or how easy it will be for people or travelers for this sector to handle and explain to the tourists what exactly and how they have to do this?
Yes. This
From
is
practical perspective, actually, sir.
absolutely. Everybody is scared right now. Everybody
Yes,
is
sir.
scared right now. But let's get together. This was the point that I was trying to make, Dr. Palvi, over there when I was coming to this particular
Yes, sir.
that Indonesian cruise.
Yes, sir.
Indonesian cruise. This is by CNBC. The entire Europe and America, they want to come to Indonesia now. And lately, for the late, I'm not saying they are coming right now, but October onwards, they are actually going full.
Okay, sir.
Sooner or later, we'll all travel. You know, this is what, let's look at it. We are all so scared and we don't want to travel. But the fact right now, try and understand is, the airlines which have started are not even, they're not sufficient to carry all the passengers and people around in India.
Yes,
People
sir.
are still looking for the traveling. This is what, whatever happens, we have to modify our behavior. And this is what I'm telling you, and our confidence is we will travel again. This will take some time, maybe a month or two more, but we'll all be traveling again. That's for sure.
Thank you, sir. With this, the question and answer session is over. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your valuable knowledge and enriching experience in the field of hospitality, particularly in reference to COVID-19. We are grateful to you for making us understand the relevance of hospitality sector in our economy and the enormous metamorphosis that is occurring in this sector. Sir, you have rightly said that there will be a new normal and people will need to modify their lifestyle accordingly, like the virtual kitchen, the cloud kitchen. Thank you, sir, for also sharing with us the protocols of tourism by the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. We do look forward to having an opportunity to listen to you again in our future events. Please accept our sincere gratitude once more. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am.
I also thank the participants for their cooperation and valuable questions. Since we are running short of time, we'll be moving on to the second technical session. All paper presenters of the upcoming second technical session are also requested to be prepared with their presentations. The second technical session will be moderated by Mr. Alok John, Assistant Coordinator, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, IQAC, Patna Women's College. He is also one of the founding members of IIM Bodh Gaya, Assistant Professor in the Departments of Business Administration and Advertising and Marketing Management. Over to you, Alok.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this introduction. All the participants, a general notice to all I would like to give you, since we have the paucity of time and we have to complete the presentations and go to the valedictory. So it is a request that please stick to your presentation for only 4 to 5 minutes. There won't be any question answers for the participants. So one by one, those present here on this forum will start the presentations. I'll call out the names and please be prepared to begin your presentations. And please limit to 4 to 5 minutes.
Alok, yes, just a minute. I just want to thank Professor Bimal Kumar Eka for your very valuable presentation. And you're most welcome to Patna, sir, since you said you are part of Patna. Always welcome to Patna and to Patna Women's College very specially. Thank you.
Sure,
sir.
sure. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks.
Alok, you can continue. Alok, you can continue.
Yes. So we are beginning with our presentations. The first participant, Sonali Sinha.
Very good afternoon to all who are present in this webinar. First of all, I'd like to thank your principal and the team member of IQAC Patna Women's College and selecting my paper for presenting my views on the trends and current challenges of contemporary tourism, a digital approach. So tourism, as we know, what is tourism? So let's, without wasting time, I should speak. The tourism is described as one of the world's largest industries. The tourism system, which was created by Lepper in 1990, so he divided into 3 regions: traveler region, tourist region, and these 2 regions were connected through a transit route region. Now let's see what are the trends. Today's trends as a digital approach. First is chatbots and AI, VR and AR, mobile integration, recognition technology. So what is chatbots and AI? So chatbots and AI, that is artificial intelligence, is one of the most exciting digital trends of recent times, being the increased use. So crucially, chatbots and AI can deliver swift replies even in the middle of the night. AI is the forefront on how you plan your travel. Around 2 decades back, you needed to stay in a hotel or in a room with a travel agent, collect information offline and online on trains and flights, and keep checking details until the last minute. And it was really a pain, but AI has helped us in this process, making it more smoother. Searching flights and trains is automated, and the process of making this is easier too. Now let's again, trend is what? That is mobile integration. This is in the age of smartphones. Mobile integration is more important than ever before. And it is one of digital trends that is implemented most easily in this tourism industry. For instance, a dedicated mobile app for hotel is used to facilitate room bookings, restaurant reservations, room service, request and appointments. Next is what? VR and AR, that is virtual reality and augmented reality. Now what's the difference between these two? So have a quick look. VR, that is, in several hotel chains are experimenting by allowing customers to experience a virtual recreation of their hotel rooms during the booking process before they ever physically step foot in, enabling more informed choices. Next is augmented reality, is typically deployed via a smartphone app and is used to enhance real-world environments through overlays. This can mean, for instance, that a user might point their phone at a restaurant and see a customer reviewer point their phone at a hotel map and find additional information about nearby attractions. Next trend, that recognition technology is being put to a great use in some hotels already, with retina scanning and fingerprint scanning being used to unlock hotel rooms. This is to improve the customer experience by eliminating the need to keep hold of a key card or use a physical key, both of which could be lost or stolen. Now, you can see here some of the mobile apps which are used for mobile integration, like Visit Kerala Adventure, Museries, Virtual Tour, Hopper, Cultural Trip, and some of the apps for AR and VR, that is Fab Hotels, Priceland, Expedia, Travelocity. For recognition, Singapore is using almost in all the hotels, and in India, the hotel chain of Lemon Tree Premier Up, they are using this recognition technology as a digital trend. Now let's see the challenges. So the challenges for tourism industry is infrastructure and security of data. Infrastructure is what? That is outdated and underdeveloped. It's poor public transportation, poor check-in and check-out process. Now security of data, we know as we are handling this digital platform, our data are at high risk and there is a threat of cyber attacks. So cyber criminals use certain tools to allow to run freely this new age of tourism. And you must be knowing hacking, trojans, email crime, cryptology. Now have a quick look on this. This is a glimpse of travel of the future, bold predictions by the year 2030. 37% people think they'll be able to get their exercise through a hologram of a personal trainer. 24% people think that 24% people think that they can use a car. Then next is transatlantic train. 71% people think that they agree that Americans will increasingly choose eco-travel destination as a vacation choice. 40% people think that underwater hotels might become more of a reality. 58% believe paper passports could move to a digital service, and already this has been done. Face recognition and digital passport. The 50% believe human face recognition technology could replace passports, and 35% believe space will be a possible destination. At last, I would like to conclude, like tourism is a catalyst for stimulating economic, social, and cultural activities and adds momentum to economic development. Let us hope that tourism will have a mass impact and will be a global leader by the year 2021. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sonali Sinha, Assistant Professor from Nirmala College, Ranchi, for sticking to the time. I appreciate your kind concern. Our next presentation, welcome Dr. Vinita Prasad, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography, AIM College, Patna. Dr. Vinita Prasad, please begin your presentation.
My topic is pandemic COVID-19 and issues and tourism issues and challenges. Pandemic COVID-19 originated at Wuhan city in Hubei province of China and has spread all over the world. The tourism sector is one of the biggest victims of COVID-19 because the industry revolves around traveling and social interaction. Incidentally, which is the major cause of virus spread. The virus is spread followed by mobility restrictions, social distancing, and lockdown across the world has thoroughly shattered the industry. Just a minute. In the above backdrop, the objective of the study is to discuss the impact of pandemic on tourism industry, to explore feasible structural changes in tourism industry, to evaluate the prospect of ecotourism following the Earth's self-regeneration process during pandemic period. The closure of hotels, resorts, restaurants, tourist centers, and allied sectors have hit the industry hard. The cancellation and postponement of several international, national, regional, and local events, such as Summer Olympics, FIFA, conferences and seminars, ceremonies, etc., have led to massive cancellation of hotel bookings and refund demands by the customers, which is a further jolt to the tourism sector. The industry is struggling hard to meet infrastructural and maintenance expenses. The religious, medical, sport, and educational tourism too have been jeopardized. This has led to huge financial loss. The United Nations World Tourism Organization has estimated a global loss of about 500 million US dollar revenue since January 2020. The Indian tourism industry alone has lost 12.5 billion US dollar in this period and had registered significant drop in concerned share prices and GDP. Consequently, the hospitality industries is forced to curtail their workforce. The 60% industries have temporarily laid off their staff and remaining 40% have significantly reduced their workforce. The aviation industry too has plunged into deep crisis, losing around 252 billion US dollars. The pandemic has proved survival threat to aviation industry, local transporters, car rentals, cab service providers, cruise operators, and boat drivers. There is unprecedented loss of livelihood to people employed in small and medium businesses such as local artisans, souvenir shopkeepers, photographers, vendors, tourist guides, and local performers, and people working in restaurants, cafe, bar, pub, food outlets, casino, and nightclubs. The loss of livelihood has a consequent financial crunch, may lead to rise in begging and incidence of crimes ranging from scary crimes like snatching, looting to serious crimes as trafficking and poaching. The financial crunch may also culminate into psychological issues like trauma, depression, and even suicide. The industry is bound to experience post-pandemic blues as security concerns and budgetary constraints may prevent people from traveling. To cope with the pandemic blues, tourism industry may require basic structural changes such as placement of thermo or UV scanners for medical screening and temperature monitoring of the tourists and staff at transportation terminals, hotels, and tourist centers. It may become mandatory for tourists to carry fitness certificate, which may be updated during the course of journey. The hospitality industries need to consolidate medical infrastructure and empower local healthcare system to meet any eventualities. Protocol reconstructing and revision has become imperative. It is needed to modify a staff uniform, making face masks, gloves, and head cover compulsory, use of artificial intelligence, introduction of contact-free, automated self-check-in and check-out procedures, digital menu, and 100% digital transaction. There is need to introduce new rigorous cleanliness regimes, use of UV light-driven robots to sanitize frequently touched items, post-checkout, deep cleaning and putting room seal is required. Special care is required to keep pool and gym sanitized. A portable UV light sanitizer can be installed in rooms to further minimize the risk. Pandemic and ecotourism. Every cloud has a silver lining, so do the COVID-19, as the pandemic-induced halt at anthropogenic activities has accelerated Earth's self-regeneration process and has improved quality of environment across the globe, which may instill insight to introduce regulated eco-friendly tourism, ways and means to promote ecotourism. There is need to put a check on over-tourism and promote responsible and sustainable tourism. It is time to explore socially innovative tourism such as slow tourism, staycation, virtual tourism, digital tourism, eco-sustainable tourism, eco-sustainable smart tourism, and wisdom tourism. Although this situation makes tourism highly vulnerable, but at the same time has unfolded new dimensions of tourism, which is being explored and is likely to be executed soon. The tourism sector is bound to emerge from the current crisis with great vigor and new opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vidita. I'm sure the government may be able to adopt these suggestions which are made by you. Our next presenter, Ms. Hazel Conchita da Costa from Carmel College of Arts, Science and Commerce for Women, Goa. Dr. Hazel, please continue with the presentation.
Today, basically, I am going to look at Goa tourism and COVID-19, the challenges and opportunities. So basically, Goa is one of the most preferred destination, not only in India, but also abroad. Basically, because of the hospitality that it offers, the natural beauty that it heritage, culture. Okay. Keeping all this in mind, we have various types of tourism which can be found in our state. And just to name a few, we have environmental tourism, recreational tourism, adventure sports, be trekking, all those things, health tourism, historical tourism, because Goa has rich history, the cultural tourism. And when I'm talking about cultural tourism, because Goa is a blend of Indo-Western cultures, with the religious tourism, village tourism, and keeping all these things in mind, basically the tourism industry contributes 40% of the revenue to the state. And when I'm saying this, it's one of the biggest source of income, biggest source of revenue to the state. Thus, paying attention or prioritizing tourism becomes a necessity, keeping the COVID situation in mind. This is just a timeline. This is the timeline. And just to give you an idea of tourism in Goa, basically the important landmarks are, the tourism starts off from 1960s. Okay, that is when the hippie community, basically the first hippie who came to Goa, and the spread of the hippie community, which actually exposed Goa outside, and it brought Goa on the global map. Coming to the next landmark, that is the introduction of liberal licensing, okay, which also boosted, and this thing has contributed to shooting up of the number of tourists coming to Goa. And today we have around 8 million people who last year visited Goa. These are a few statistics. Okay, I will not go into the details of it. Okay, but basically just to highlight, we have domestic tourists more as compared to the foreign tourists. Okay, we will come to that. All this, basically, keeping all these things in mind, we have the various challenges and concerns which COVID-19 brings to us. Okay, and when I'm talking about the challenges and concerns, I would like to look at it from two parts. That is, what was the situation before COVID-19 and what is the situation after COVID-19 concerning Goa tourism. Before COVID-19, there were concerns, and the concerns were, to begin with, we had extended monsoons, and we're talking about extended monsoon, the change in climate, okay? Because normally in Goa, the tourist season begins from October, November, but last 2019, the monsoon season extended, and not just that, we had surplus rainfall, which also contributed or became a concern in the number of tourists who came, and also delay in starting off of the tourism activities. Besides this, we also had increased number of low budget tourists. And when I'm talking about low budget tourists, it is a concern. It's a concern basically because the increased number of traffic on the roads, the nuisance calls on the beaches, basically the garbage issue, the cooking on the roadside, which became issues which wanted to be highlighted or which required immediate attention. Besides this, the negative publicity of the state tourism that was going about, and this is basically because of the increased number of crimes that were there, basically the crowded places, the garbage issue, poor infrastructure, okay, and this was portraying negative way, okay, and there was need to control it. And keeping this all in mind, another thing which was added, that was it was held that was catering to more than its capacity. Okay, so that it put on a lot of stress on the state concerns which the government, especially Department of Tourism, was looking forward to. And to add on to all this, we had COVID-19 which comes, and COVID-19 exaggerates all these problems. Okay, and So basically, after COVID-19, all these problems still exist. Along with them, the major concerns that are there are basically definitely the downfall of economy, okay, due to the loss of jobs, all those, dependency on tourism, okay, and the income sources. As I was saying in the very beginning, for Goa, tourism is one of the biggest source of income, a biggest source of revenue. And now, since tourism has a downfall, it will definitely, it's a major concern, okay. Basically, the next thing is about migrants. Now, when I'm talking about migrants, the scenario in Goa is that, basically in Goa, we have around 1 million migrants who are working in Goa. And when I'm talking about working in Goa, most of them are directly involved with tourism, be it they work as entertainers, they work in the hospitality industry, okay, or they are indirectly engaged in tourism. That is, they are the instructions related to tourism. Not just that, be it the sports, those sports which are present in basically they are owned by the locals, okay, but you have people who are employed to work, okay, as such migrants. And now, after COVID situation, since most of the migrants are moving out, it becomes a concern for the state as to what would, once tourism is once tourism is revamped, okay, what would be the situation? The next concern
Ms. Hajal,
of COVID
if you could
is
just
about
let us know about your observation on
yes.
this brand. What is the observation and suggestion that you have in this presentation?
So basically, so even if we start off tourism, the major concerns would be directly. Okay, that is basically our government plans to go back to 1960s and focus only on the rich budget tourist, okay, and this is basically, as we had seen in the very beginning, okay, just to control all the issues that were their concerns, okay. So they feel that starting from the scratch would be a good thing. It has its own pros and cons, keeping the constitution in mind, no doubt, okay. There is a need that is felt for a comprehensive mapping. So until and unless we know each level, what has been the impact, we cannot think of a way out. So there is a need of a comprehensive mapping. Besides this, a need for a stimulus packages, definitely economic support is needed, okay. A need to control the climate, meaning look into the issues of climate change, because already damage has been done due to COVID, okay, and to add on to it, because the monsoon seasons are going to start off, okay, so a need to look into that. Provide an opportunity to rebrand Goa, okay, because this is definitely giving us an opportunity to rebrand Goa, looking at the negative publicity that was being done. The confidence building which is needed among the travelers, because all of us are scared. So to rebuild that confidence, for a strategy for sustainable ethical tourism, and definitely at the end, the need for a
Thank you, Ms. Hajal, for joining us all the way from Goa. We appreciate your suggestions. Our next presentation is by the participant Dr. Rashmi Ranjana, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography, College of Commerce, Arts and Science, Patna. Dr. Rashmi Ranjana, over to you.
Very warm afternoon, Mr. Rashmi, Amrita Devzani and all the participants. Audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am, it would, if there is a low bandwidth, you can switch off your video so that the bandwidth can be consumed with the audio. If you have a poor connectivity, you can switch off your video and start your presentation. Start sharing the screen.
Today, I am going to present my paper on the past trends and current challenges in tourism sector of Bihar due to COVID-19. Coronavirus or COVID-19 is highly infectious disease which causes respiratory infections in humans. Its outbreak from non-China to almost every country in the world, and then in India has brought the economy and tourism sector to standstill. First case in India was found in Kerala on 30th January 2020 and in Bihar on 22nd March. And subsequent lockdown, Indian aviation and tourist sector were first hit, and all hotels, restaurants, tourist places, parks, cinemas were shut down. Approximately 6 million tourists visited Bihar every year. the iconic city Bodh and Gaya in 2019, there are total 2,380 confirmed corona cases, 653 cured cases, and 11 deaths till 24th May 2020. Now people are scared enough to travel unnecessarily. Of my study is to attain the fast trend of tourism in Bihar, and second is to identify major challenges faced by the tourism industry due to coronavirus. Solutions was also given to revive the industry, and secondary data has been used to explain the facts. The study area has many historical, religious, and cultural and natural tourist places and stand at 8th position in India in terms of foreign tourist arrival. The most visited places are Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Nalanda, Patna, and Pavapur. 7 important religious circuits, wildlife hotspots, rural areas are well tourism, and thermal spots like Rajgir, Mumbai, Valmiki Nagar are being developed. Table number 1 shows the existing traditional tourist spot list, and next slide shows the famous tourist places in Bihar. According to Bihar Tourism Department, there are total 64,114 foreign tourists in 2005 and 10.88 lakhs in 2018 from Japan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Korea, Southeast Asian, and other countries who came to Bihar for leisure, recreation, and tourism. 3.36 crore domestic tourists visited in 2018, and 84.3% tourists were from Bihar itself. 8% were from Jharkhand and UP in 2005. Domestic tourism were in 2017 in Patna on the 350th birth anniversary of Prakash Kaur of Guru Gobind Singh. Table number 4 shows the number of tourists from 2015 to May 2019. The main impact of COVID-19 is loss of jobs in associated fields, decline in local business, huge loss in foreign exchange and revenue, and cancellations of tickets. The season of May, June, and October to December is badly hit as forward bookings were consummated. Budget money towards health and other important sectors, closure of all transports and borders, providing for poor and migrants labor have put immense pressure on financial strain on government. Now, the challenges faced by tourism industry are scheduling and refunding of tickets and food packages, providing alternative employment or help to local business entrepreneurs and employees for the time being. To attract tourists after lockdown is lifted, some focus on providing hygiene, cleanliness, sanitation, healthcare, skilled worker, transportation, marketing, accommodation, and other tourist safety. Bihar faces strict competition from other less India is government sponsored, and therefore government is trying to develop eco-tourist spots with many tourist activities like camping, jungle safari, trekking, etc., along with thermal, spiritual, rural, aqua, and Ayurvedic tourism. People in future would prefer to travel nearby, safe and secluded places. Therefore, domestic demand is expected to recover faster, and we can expect tourists from Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and neighboring states. Next slide shows the major eco-thermal tourist spots and government measures. Suggestions like mass sanitization, strictly monitoring and medical screening of all tourists, especially for foreigners, payments to suppliers, and minimizing the extra expenditure, safety of tourists and local people, change in attitude, implementation of WHO guidelines on health measures will improve the tourism scenario of the state. Transportation, hotels, sightseeing spots, restaurants, good hospitality, easy visa rules, development of handicrafts and cottage industry, lesser movement in common areas of hotels, minimum touch points at every venue, positive marketing with all special packages and discounts, organic food items and wellness centers will attract the international as well as domestic tourists. Financial capital and government help, trained personnel and enthusiastic workforce will boost up the industry. Conclude that it will take at least 1 year to revive the tourism industry, and for that we have to show total transparency and transform the entire tourism and aviation sector according to the current situation and safety measures. We need systematic change to provide security, better infrastructure, and good hospitality. Between every concerned sector, media, local people, and government, development of less crowded tourist places, tourist policies and safety, positive and attractive marketing through social media, e-platforms, advertisement, etc. will improve the tourism sector in Bihar. For this, the tourism industry needs more relief like extension of loan payment time, GST waivers, tax waivers of tourist vehicles, and income tax, etc. Crisis period, we have to stay united, strong, safe, and be ready to help people and government to bounce back. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Moving to our next presentation, I now invite Ms. Poonam Abraham Lakra, Assistant Professor, Department of MCA, Patna Women's College, to begin her presentation. Ms. Poonam Abraham Lakra.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to everyone. Today's my topic for presentation is economic impact of lockdown on tourism and hospitality industry, prospects and challenges. As we all know, COVID-19 has been hovering our globe, and it's been almost 3 months now. It is just like an ill wind that blows no good. This is said when things have gone wrong, but still a glimmer of hope floats with slight chance of something positive will happen. This pandemic is the biggest challenge that any country has ever faced. The cases are rising. The Indian government has been taking several measures to flatten the curve by imposing national lockdown of 62 days so far. We have entered lockdown phase 4. The travel and the tourism industry was one of the first sector to be affected by the outbreak and most likely to be the hardest hit. Since travel has become an important part of everyone's life and is no longer considered as a luxury, but a necessity to break away from the mundane routine and to rejuvenate. My main objective for this presentation is to have a slight glance at the evolution of pandemic, a comprehensive understanding of the effect of lockdown, how the travel industry has been paralyzed, and the economic story so far. Need not to go through into much detail of this, as we all know how the evolution of pandemic has arisen, and it's been said by the WHO that how this on 11th March they have categorized this as a pandemic following the 5 before flus which has been affected from 1910 till today's, that is 2020. So far, there are so many deaths being estimated, which was in 1910, they had got about 50 million deaths, and coming about to 2020, SARS COVID, it is almost like reaching 3 lakh deaths so far. The lockdown spread across Asia and the world. We have been seeing that as the outbreak become a truly global pandemic, the measures to restrict movement become more commonplace throughout February and March. By contrast, the total national lockdown has become a commonplace across Europe and parts of US, where the infection rate are soaring well beyond those seen in Asia. Seeing in our own country, India has been planting all the essential services which was under lockdown, and our country has followed both the internal as well as the external lockdown policy. The travel industry, which has been totally paralyzed in most cases, it's been hit with each every day passing since last March, following the center moves to implement a nationwide lockdown. The hospitality industry has been affected drastically by COVID-19 outbreak worldwide, forcing many hotels to close, while some have had to work with just a skeleton staff. The long-term impact of COVID on industry is yet not fully quantifiable because of the uncertainty of the situation. Both the revenue and the supply chain has been hit hard. It has also impacted all its sectors: inbound, outbound, domestic, leisures, cruise, adventures, corporate meeting, conference, and exhibition. For many thousands of freelancers making a living out of travel and tourism, the situation is as bleak. The cash trap, travel agencies have held back their payment due to worldwide slowdown. One of the biggest challenges for the industry will be the recovery of the debtors for the hotels. The closing down of iconic Taj Mahal last month was an evocative symbol of how India's travel and tourism landscape has changed due to COVID-19. The list is still big on. The tourism sector, most dependent than the other on the free and confident movement of people, is staring at millions of disappearing jobs and a grave future. Looking at the economic story, as we all see, the picture over here is the graph is always falling down. Whether it's about the infinity rate, the GDP growth, or the inflation rate, the graph is falling down. In India, up to 53% of businesses are impacted abruptly. Unemployment rate has increased nearly 19% within a month. reaching 26% of unemployment across India. 14 crore Indians lost employment in the lockdown. 45% households across the nation have reported an income drop. It is estimated that the loss of tourism industry will be 15,000 crore. A number of young startups have been impacted as funds have fallen. On 27th March, Moody's Investor Service downgraded its estimated of Indians' GDP growth for 2020 from 5.3% to 2.5%. Now, I'm trying to conclude my presentation with that there is a big, massive spillover post-lockdown. And we need to look for a beam of hope, and it can only be done if we have certain strategic planning for implementation for the upcoming days. It could be that a new model of communication we have to invent, and we have to adhere to it, and urgently we need to follow it. We also need to follow on the experiments with many experiences. This can only come as the days move on and as we come across many different situations. Technology has saved us. This fact we all need to accept and live with it. Hence, collaborative work with science and technology can only revive the economy back. Thank you so much.
Dr. A. John Matthew is an assistant professor at St. Aloysius Degree College, Bangalore. Dr. Matthew, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
The topic of my research is the future prospects on the behavioral pattern of the tourists in Bangalore city during and post-pandemic period. So that's my basic topic. In the topic, I would like to cover basically to analyze the behavior of the tourists, especially purchase behavior of the tourists, in order to correlate their purchase behavior, how it affects the tourism. For example, taking into the account the social role of the tourist, the behavior of an individual tourist can also be an indicator of the behavior of the others. So, analyzing the behavior of few individual tourists, I like to establish how the purchasing behavior of the tourism will get impacted. So, my objective of the study are the following: to know about the problems faced by the tourists in the Bangalore city during and after the pandemic period, to study how the behavioral patterns of the tourists in Bangalore city during and after pandemic period, and critically view the challenges faced by the tourists in adapting to the changing environment of the Bangalore city, to suggest solutions on the basis of the findings of the study. So basically I have taken a survey. The survey is basically a sampling method. I used a convenience sampling, and I used certain analytical tools to arrive at the results. My sampling size is 60. So I contacted the tourists through online, especially all those who will be kind of frequenting Bangalore city, and I have found out certain findings out of them. So some important findings that I have found out is that we find that 33% of people travel for business purpose only to a new tourist places, which means year after post-COVID period, people will think about why to travel, and the purpose would be it's only based on their business. And 53% of the respondents prefer to use private hired vehicles for sightseeing. That's quite interesting. We also know that 73% of the respondents have extreme fear of infection of COVID-19. So every tourist, in back of their mind, they have this kind of a fear of infection. And also you find 58% of the respondents prefer to eat homemade foods in the tourist places. In regards to their accommodation, 40% respondents decided to stay as a paying guest, and 63 preferred less crowded and infamous places as their destination of tourism. Very unlikely, before COVID, people like to go for a crowded places, but now it is kind of a less crowded places. And 56% of the respondents prefer to give extraordinary attention to the hygiene in the tourist places. So people are begin to be aware of the hygiene, and many don't like to stay more time. They like to move, maybe plan for a shorter term. And 46% of the respondents prefer 2 times do the shopping in a new place. And you find here the hygiene becomes a kind of a first reason for choosing the new tourist designation. So that will be the kind of critical factor why they choose the a particular destination. Also, the keeping a social distance among the tourists, they found it's one of the kind of the important things that they need to follow in the new tourist place. But also they have noted that this Arogya Setu mobile app is the least direction that they wanted to follow that is given by the government. Again, the hygienic factor is the ultimate challenge that the new places wherever the tourists are. So basically, out of my research, I have a few findings. Number one, since there is a clear evidence of change of behavioral patterns of the tourists in Bangalore city after the pandemic period, the extraordinary attention must be paid to keep the tourist places clean and hygiene. So hygiene and cleaning becomes the first priority. Then the results also prove that there is an extreme fear among the respondents, as we have seen 73% noted that. And thus both the government and private organization has to ensure safety of the tourist in regards to the preparation of food, especially in the tourist places, transport and accommodation. Number three, shopping malls and tourist shopping areas has to adapt government regulations such as process of constant cleaning of products, the shopping complexes, wearing masks, checking the tourist temperatures and maintaining the social distances. Then for purchasing pattern of the tourists would change after the pandemic period. This is quite interesting. There would be less frequency of shopping in the crowded areas. People will try to avoid, especially the tourists. The tourist would spend more amount in the hygienic and safety products than in the attractive and fancy products. So the hygienic products will take the priority. The tourist would prefer not to eat in the hotels and public eateries as often in the past, because when you go to a new place, we like to eat in a restaurant. But out of my research, I found that they will try to avoid. And so as a result, the restaurants and the hotels have to invent new methods of serving and extend their service of delivery in their food items to the tourists themselves. So they have to find how to reach the food items to the tourists. And finally, the tourists prefer to use their own private vehicles to travel to the new tourist places. So the government has to give attention to provide enough parking places. As far as the Bangalore concerns, it's a very small city and we are having issues with traffic and parking. So because now people will not prefer the public transport, so the government has to find more parking spaces for the tourists, and there will be also drastic increase in the number of private vehicles on the road. The extension of the road and handling of traffic would play a vital role in the tourist destination. So that's it, sir. These are my observations.
Thank you so much. This was a very well-researched presentation. Dr. Matthew, we appreciate your presentation.
Thank you,
Thank you so much for connecting. Our next, moving over to our next presentation. It is presented by Dr. Sitavi Yatinder, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Zoology and Genetics, Jyoti Nivas College, Bangalore. Dr. Sitavi Yatinder.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
Thank you, Patna Women's College, for giving me an opportunity to present my topic, COVID, a paradigm shift for the hospitality industry, even though it is not my field of academics, because I'm from the Department of Zoology and Genetics.
We appreciate your interdisciplinary interest.
Okay, thank you, sir. The pandemic outbreak of COVID-19 is the most challenging crisis the world is facing. Hoteliers are adopting multi-pronged health and hygiene strategies to come out to have a recovery for the industry. Innovative challenge for the service provider is to enrich the guest experience. The mindset and expectation of the guest is yet to be understood, because the law of the land health guidelines for a new country would be totally different. So the guest experience would be totally different in a new country. The guest fear of the unknown should be minimal. How? Perhaps by demonstrating very high standards of hygiene with comfort, affordable, and an incremental increase of cost to the guest. So this would perhaps be a new initiative of the hotel industry, because they would have to start many new initiatives. One such initiative would be installation of a HEPA filter. So part of a traveler's new pandemic checklist would be HEPA filters. The hospitality industry in India is considered a sunrise industry and one of the most profitable industries, with over 8.78% of the total workforce, creating almost 15 million jobs in the past 5 years. The service industry is a broad field including 4 segments: food, beverage, travel and tourism, lodging and recreation. Lodging in India includes the hotel category along with resorts and motels. One of the top players in the hotel industry's mission statement is "Your well-being is our priority." ITC Hotels launches We Assure, a first of its kind initiative on health, hygiene and safety. Some of the salient features of We Assure include specially curated training and e-learning programs for all its associates, re-engineered guest experience with zero contact, minimal associate engagements, sanitized cutlery, crockery, and tableware supported by digital ordering and e-payment solutions, advanced and stringent deep cleaning protocols and sanitized rooms, remodeled hotel layout to support safe distancing, state-of-the-art technology such as UV sanitization, ozonizers, ISO 22000, food safety management system that is from the farm to the fork, provides customer confidence in the product, certified facilities with microbiology labs, advanced disinfectants for long-lasting protection. Now, what are the new rules of the post-COVID era? Doing away with self-serve spreads, goodbye to 5-star buffets, digital menus replacing printed menus, new layouts to ensure physical distancing both at the restaurants and for chefs in the kitchen, sanitizing guest cars, tires and luggage, opening of spas and swimming pools only after strictly adhering to the safety procedures, quarantine the room for 48 hours after the guest has left. Digital transactions is a must. If cash is given, quarantine the cash too. Sanitizing common areas like elevators frequently. What are the upcoming challenges the hotel industry is going to face? To prepare for isolated quarantine sections, that is, if the guest experiences any symptoms of an infection, convince the staff to get back to work. Contactless service is going to be a must. A lot of additional costs to technology, automation for minimal human interaction. Artificial intelligence will now play a pivotal role to keep carpeted areas minimal. An app could be installed in the mobile phones of the guests for operating elevators, lights, television. Chefs need to work hard to bring in authentic, traditional, unsung dishes to attract customers while following all protocols. Now, the hotel industry should also go in for accreditation by national accreditation boards and assurance certificates issued by certification bodies. This will stand testimony to the rigorous hygiene protocols being put in place to ensure the safety of the guests. LEED certified hotels will definitely have a better edge during the post-COVID era as they have experience in operating a green building. The prospects for revival do not look especially assuring of now, considering we have no knowledge of when the restrictions on the travel will be lifted. But the hotel industries have to really work hard to boost the confidence among the guests. But the next time you stay in a hotel, your hygiene experience will be a lot different. I have used the following references for my presentation. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Sitavi. It was a very well-researched presentation, giving ideas and avenues about the certifications and accreditations that the hotel industry has to undergo. Thank you so much for this well-researched presentation and connecting all the way from Bangalore. Moving forward, our next presentation, I would like to invite Dr. Priyadarshini, Assistant Professor, CNLU Patna, along with her co-presenter, Dr. Shalini Dixit, Assistant Regional Director, IGNU Patna. Over to you, madam.
A very good afternoon to one and all. This is a joint paper by me, Dr. Priyadarshini, and Dr. Shalini Dikshit. It's honor and privilege to be a part of two-day online international conference hosted by our alma mater, Patna Women's College. Respected Dr. Sister M. Rashmi AC, Patna Women's College, Principal, members of the IQAC team, and participants. I start with the quote, "We travel not to escape life, but for life not to escape us," unquote. Today's topic is COVID-19 ramifications of wildlife sanctuaries of erstwhile Bihar. The tourism industry is the ecosphere's largest industry, and its most intricate, and its complexity is because of having a strong tie with social, cultural, political, and environmental issues. The relationship between the tourism and environment is phenomenal, and it is so delicate that it is necessary to meet the challenges and achieve the goals of sustainable, eco-friendly tourism very carefully. Tourism as one of the fundamental and inherent human rights, but in case of wildlife sanctuaries, one should do it very carefully. The past experiences have proved that tourism always involves economic, environmental, and social impact. The main pillars of tourism and the natural attractions such as mountains, rivers, lakes, forests, animals, birds, etc. have made the tourists and the travelers to travel to a specific destination. The COVID-19, no doubt, has decreased the number of tourists, which has lessened the revenue generation, but this lockdown has positive impact on the animals, birds, and submarine animals. Sunil Chaudhary, the director of Vikramshila Biodiversity Research and Education Center of Tilkamanji, Bhagalpur University, said on 15th April 2020 that the lockdown has been a boon in disguise and much needed blessings for all animals. New dolphins were being spotted at places where they had not been seen due to human activities. The regional head of the Geological Survey of India, Bihar and Jharkhand, Dr. Gopal Sharma, said that the human interference has completely decreased. Fish and mammals are getting enough food and freedom to swim around due to less human interference. But this has side effect too. There is an increase in wildlife trade of the country. The people have no work, so it has increased the human hunting activities. Parakeets and miners are the most commonly treated birds, and deers and wild boars are killed for meat. The illegal transport of birds has increased with trading conducted at the Nepal border through Roxol, as these species were not listed under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Even after COVID-19, the government and the NGOs, they should work together for their quality life. Now moving to the methodology, hypothesis of this is despite poaching and illegal killing in better off condition than before, this paper is based on secondary sources like articles, books, and research papers related to the topic, as it was not possible to visit and interact with the stakeholders due to the lockdown. The wildlife sanctuaries of erstwhile Bihar had equally values and earning in the society. The damage occur from wildlife due to predation on livestock, traffic accidents, and transmission of diseases to animals and humans. The profits accumulate from hunting, recreational activities, food, and other ecosystem. The asymmetrical allocation of these costs and benefits among stakeholders constitute a threat to wildlife. Approximately 50% of all mammals worldwide are in decline, and 25% are facing extinction because of illegal hunting and destruction of habitats, example, for agriculture purposes. There are innumerable wildlife sanctuaries in erstwhile Bihar and its adjoining areas. The famous ones are the Valmiki Sanctuary, West Champaran, Bhimban Sanctuary, Munger District, Rajgir Sanctuary, Rajgir District, Kaimur Sanctuary, Sasaram District, Gautam Buddha Sanctuary, which falls in Ganga, and Hazaribagh, Jharkhand State, Udaipur Sanctuary, West Champaran, Vikramshila Gangetic Dolphin Sanctuary, Bhagalpur District, Kabar Jheel Bird Sanctuary, Begusarai, Gogabil Bird Sanctuary, Katihar District, Sanjay Gandhi Biological Park, Patna, Patna. The positive impact of COVID-19 on wildlife to be discussed is that this lockdown would definitely have impacted the urban flora and fauna. All of a sudden, noise pollution has reduced, air quality has improved, and traffic has practically come to a standstill. This change has affected the wildlife in a positive way. Gangetic dolphins have become more visible in the Vikramshila Gangetic Dolphin Sanctuary in Bihar due to the lack of human activity on the Ganga during the ongoing novel coronavirus disease and the lockdown. The Gangetic river dolphin is India's national aquatic animal but frequently falls prey to poachers. Their carcass are usually found regularly on the banks of River Ganga.
Madam, sorry for the interruption. Please sum up your presentation.
Sure.
In case you have a special suggestion, made.
Yes, I have. That coming up to the negative impact of the pandemic on the wildlife as such, this pandemic has side effects as during lockdown, wandering dogs as well, and people have started killing spotted deers, blackbucks, mouse, deer, wild boars, turtle, peacocks, and host of species on the fringes of forest because a large number of people have lost their jobs in the city and have returned home, and dogs are not getting food for their wildlife. As a result, these are the easily available source of protein-rich food. This coming to the conclusion, India's party to CITES, an international convention which aims to preserve wild flora and fauna by restricting and regulating trade in endangered species. Now at this pandemic time, the government should review and implement necessary actions pertaining to wildlife trade. Despite efforts to achieve success in ecological balance and block environmental degradation, there is less check on pollution of environment. There is negative aspect of tourism on the environment. The tourism industry would have to draw attention to important environmental issues to protect and preserve the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. I next invite Dr. Amita Agarwal, Principal, ML and JNK Girls College, Saharanpur, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Amita Agarwal, over to you.
I'm thankful to Patna Women's College and especially the organizers of the webinar for providing this opportunity to present my paper. My specialization is in English literature, but the topic is such that I also decided to add something in the great topic that has been discussed from the last 2 days, the various aspects of this tourism in the pandemic time of COVID-19. The topic of my presentation is New Vistas of Tourism in Post-COVID-19 Era. My paper is based on 2 case studies. The objective of my paper is how to identify the changing pattern in tourism and hospitality sector. It is not because of COVID-19 only, but the change has been observed in the perspectives of, as mentioned in the NRDPR Handbook for Rural Homestays Operators, globally there is a decline in the number of tourists visiting places known as prime travel destinations and an increase in visits to new places. Many visitors are tired of the traffic, crowds, and pollution of the cities, and they want to stay in villages, in the homes of local friendly people, in quiet, peaceful places, surrounded by fields and forests. They want to taste traditional home-cooked food, learn about local customs, play with children, take part in festivals, discover nature, birds, and wildlife. Why do we travel? Travel in the younger sort is a part of education, in the elder, a part of experience. That is the famous saying of Francis Bacon. And now we see that tourism can be broadly classified as in different categories, such as nature-based tourism, adventure tourism, cultural tourism, pilgrimage, recreational tourism, business tourism, and event-based tourism. But what are the post-COVID scenario of tourism? While countries are busy in finding the vaccine, we can only speculate about the future of the tourism and hospitality. In tourism, local features play a very significant role, and priorities vary from place to place and country to country. The need for linking responsible tourism with community development has never been so vocal as now. So alternate tourism, sometimes referred as secondary tourism, should take the lead. So alternate tourism is the future of tourism industry, and there are reasons for it. Home stays are the viable options, and why they are the viable options, I have given certain reasons. It addresses environmental concern worldwide, protection and conservation of natural resources, wildlife, forests and soil, a viable solution of local livelihood, raising local employment ratio and curbing the rate of migration from our villages. Interaction with local and regional culture, places, art and architecture, festivals, beliefs, religious practices, aesthetics, ethics, etc. Cross-cultural interaction will be beneficial for both the host and the guest. Homestays are an integral part of rural development, experience of real local life, not as outsider, but on the basis of sharing. And no better way to explore Bharat than to be a part of the family of farmers, artisans, and laborers who represent the majority of Indians instead of big hotel chains, as the concept of homestays gives an opportunity to the local, to the native dwellers to extend their home facilities for the tourists. Therefore, in that way, they will get a direct contact with the local people. Homestays are viable option because they provide an opportunity to exhibit local talent with the perspective of self-independent Atmanirbhar Bharat. Inclusive and holistic approach of tourism is provided by homes, this viable option. It also encourages local art and artifacts, which will contribute in eradicating poverty of the local artists and artisans. It redefines and relocates the development criteria, which goes to the bottom line. Homestays are viable options because traditional Indian ethics of hospitality, that is Atithi Devo Bhava, so that is in very nature of the Indian culture. Homestays are viable options because they improve economic viability. Medium and low income class will avail the facility in large number. Tourism will be more sustainable, less dependent on seasonal cycles. And it will also increase the responsible tourism with the synergic involvement of common people and local administration. Then I have my paper is based, as I told you in the beginning, 2 case studies. The first case study is of Friends of Orcha. It is a registered non-profit organization working in Madhya Pradesh. It created livelihood which is linked on all these parameters which I have talked in earlier. 15 years ago, that Friends of Orcha was registered and it started working in Orcha. Is a lesser known place for tourism. But the story of the success of this Orcha is such that it got the gold medal by the government for the services it provided. My second case study is based upon attempt at reverse migration in rural Kumaon. This is the title of this study. In Uttarakhand, a team of DU professors applied for a grant under MOEF to restore vernacular houses into homestays to provide livelihood to the few locals who were still living in the village. This has encouraged families to come back to the village from the cities. This project in Khoont near Almora is a work in progress at the moment. The interesting thing about this project is that the homestays were homestays were provided by the local hill villagers, and they converted these houses into homestays with the minimal changes, such as the mud plastered walls and the wooden carved doors were not changed. Few facilities were added to it according to the demand of the tourists, such as Wi-Fi, connectivity, and separate toilets, and a very basic kind of furniture like a charpai, bed, mattresses, a few chairs, and etc. So it is not a burden on the local people to convert their homes into homestays. And it also contributed a lot in giving a new lease to Bakholi architecture, as well as another architectural style, Koti Bansal style, was also revived in this manner.
Ma'am, we would request you to conclude.
So both these studies have given a new vistas of tourism, which will be viable in the post-COVID area also. And it will be a holistic approach to tourism. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate the thought that charity begins at home. So now tourism begins at home. To that concept, we can proceed ahead. Thank you, ma'am, for this new generic vistas of tourism idea that you gave through your presentation.
Thank you.
Moving forward, I would now invite Dr. Shobha Srivastav, Associate Professor, Department of Zoology, Patna Women's College, for her presentation. Dr. Shobha Srivastav.
So good afternoon, one and all attending this online international conference. My theme is prospects of virtual tourism, reimagining tourism through virtual reality. Virtual reality is a term used for computer-generated 3D environments that allow the user to enter and interact with alternate realities. It focuses on creating an illusion where users immerse themselves in a varying degree of artificial computer world. By artificially stimulating our senses, our bodies become tricked into accepting another version of reality. Virtual reality has become very popular nowadays, and efforts are being made to merge it with tourism industry, as it can be used in many different ways if combined with tourism industry. The uses of virtual reality within tourism is expanding along with the technology. Virtual tourism encourages tourists to have a better destination experience. Virtual tourism has the potential to reimagine the tourism industry. Tourism industry is the vast, vibrant, dynamic, and growth-oriented industry. It is the reason for most of the human mobility in the modern world today. Traveling and exploring has become an important part of everyone's life. Tourism industry is one of the biggest contributors to the economic growth in any nation. Coronavirus disease is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. The global pandemic of novel coronavirus has not only brought entire socio-economic structures into a standstill, but has challenged the globalization and global operations of enterprises. The travel and tourism sector is in the third month of complete shutdown, and thus the businesses are on its knees worldwide. The entire country lockdowns, borders closure, travel restrictions, suspension of almost all passenger flights, closed hotels and restaurants have resulted in an unprecedented crisis in the sector. Tourism industry has been one of the hardest hit professions due to the coronavirus. Whenever there has been any major impact on the economy of any country, tourism has always been the first one to get affected as people start to cut down on their travel budgets. The World Travel and Tourism Council has warned that the COVID-19 pandemic could cut 50 million jobs worldwide in the travel and tourism industry. Once the outbreak is over, it could take more than a year for the tourism industry to recover. Tourism industry has entered a great crisis. World tourism has completely collapsed due to coronavirus. Since the borders of the countries are sealed, cities are standstill, flights are grounded, cruise ships are docked, trains and metros are stationary, hotels and restaurants are closed, we need an alternative arrangement to keep the industry going. Virtual tourism is being promoted, developed, and tested on a global scale as it is the need of the hour. Virtual tourism can change business travel a big time. Virtual travel experience lets to explore the world by being stationary and even from our houses. World's most famous landmarks are closed for now, but one can still take an interactive online tour to gaze over them and further to explore various areas of the tourist places. Softwares, applications, and accessories are being developed worldwide to promote and encourage the scope of virtual tourism. Virtual tourism is the new big step ahead, which has the potential to revolutionize the whole travel and tourism industry. There are many opportunities of virtual tourism. The travel industry is not going to bounce back anytime this year, and thus virtual travel is a welcome escape from the pandemic. Virtual tourism is an eco-friendly solution to the problem of over-tourism. It creates a very convincing travel experience. Virtual reality exposes tourists to the world in a fairly profound way. Virtual tourism can provide the experience of just anywhere on Earth and universe, and a person literally experience seeing them in reality. Virtual reality tours can be advantageous to old age tourists or differently abled people, as they can experience the world around them just by staying at a place. With the unknown existing threat in the world and 90% of the world under travel restrictions, virtual tourism has come up as a savior to many different places. Challenges of virtual tourism are many. Several hurdles stand between culturally starved consumers and virtual reality. The technology of virtual tourism has not been developed completely, and the experience provided at present are incomplete. 360-degree virtual realities videos are usually experienced through a headset or an app, but all these headsets are very expensive, heavy, and may cause nausea. There is a big gap between using virtual reality in tourism and treating virtual reality like the destination itself. The virtual tourism do have scope of sound and light, but what cannot feel, touch, or interact. Tourists, while traveling, focus on new experiences, new discoveries, which simply cannot be achieved by virtual tourism. Virtual tourism is more of a guided tour and would lose the sanctity of exploring the world. The thrill of traveling, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures will certainly end if a computer engineered world will take over the actual tourism industry. Therefore, virtual reality may never replace actual tourism and traditional travel, but it still offers many possibilities. Now, finally, the tourism industry is one of the largest contributors of nation development and nation building. Coronavirus pandemic is the biggest challenge that any country has ever faced. The fear of the virus has affected the travel and tourism industry, and the age of virtual reality tourism is fast approaching. Virtual tourism is set to have big impact on the travel and tourism industry, as it offers the potential to create a substitute experience that may be extremely useful for heritage and nation preservation. Seeing the present scenario, virtual tourism is not a right choice, but certainly a smart choice. We are confident that once we manage to control this virus, we can overcome this situation well, and the tourism industry will be the first one to see the major growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this presentation, madam. It was indeed a very thoughtful process of knowing the viability of virtual tourism, whether it is feasible to adopt or not. Moving forward, may I now call upon Ms. Prachi Raj from Department of Political Science, University of Delhi.
So good afternoon to all. Today I'm presenting virtual tourism as a new normal, and basically I'm trying to understand its implications on medicines and how tourism-based economies is dealing with it. So my first slide defines tourism, which I'm not going to elaborate now. Due to this COVID-19 pandemic, where everything is locked and social distancing measures has been mandatory. So virtual tourism has emerged as an alternative to real tourism. So every destination places or maximum or all possible countries are switching to virtual tourism. So I have a data that, like, according to World Travel and Tourism Council, tourism sector has experienced a tremendous growth in last few decades, and it is responsible for creating 1 in 10 jobs around the world. But due to pandemic, there's so many losses globally, and also tourism has been badly hit. It has been discussed widely by several presenters in this conference. So virtual tourism is emerging as an important virtual reality in this growing age of digitization, under which a convincing kind of experience is generated to the tourist. Also, it has become a new normal in this pandemic era, and it is going to be continue in the upcoming digital age, because everything is getting digitized, and there are so many digital advancement is taking place worldwide. So virtual tourism has a future in the upcoming digital age. Also, many tourists are preferring to opt for virtual tourism because of mandatory social distancing measures, and also a demand for this hygienic and lockdown, or many tourists are considering it a safe option for them. So this is the data, like virtual reality users have access travel and tourism applications among all different sectors. So it has a maximum number of users. Also, how it is impacting netizens, like for some, this is the most safest option, and people are like really liking it. It has been in demand, but for some, but for others, it has been considered as a tool to disrupt travel and tourism, as one cannot feel that experience, or one cannot make any social interactions, or even one cannot come to know how it has culture or like cuisine kind of experiences. So this is not possible through virtual tourism. Also, through tourism and economy, I have taken this data from World Travel and Tourism Council. So it is shown here that tourism has become a rapid, an industry which is experiencing a rapid growth, and almost each and every country is benefiting from this. So it has experienced a tremendous rise with the rise of globalization, and has developed not only and has benefited not only developed countries or bigger countries, but has also successfully running the economies of small countries or underdeveloping countries, majorly in South Asia. So there are many countries like Maldives and British Virgin Islands. These are small countries, but tourism is a sector which contributes maximum to the GDP. Also, this is the data of Forbes magazine, which shows that how job losses are happening due to this lockdown. So you can see, like, maximum countries which are experiencing job losses, they belong to either developing nations, or these are South Asian nations. And tourism is responsibly creating maximum jobs. So due to this pandemic, there's a huge job loss. So virtual tourism has a challenge before it, is that whether it can create or whether it can tackle with this job loss, and how it is going to manage, or how it is going to contribute the GDP. Also, because many economies which are underdeveloped or small countries, they lack technological advancement, it is a challenge before virtual tourism, that how it is going to manage. Even small countries are expected, like, in order to facilitate this virtual tourism, they are expected to have or enhance their digital technologies so that virtual tourism can work in the upcoming future. So in conclusion, I can say that it has emerged as a new normal and the only alternative at the kind of age we are living in. Also, it has been considered as a safe and cost-effective option, less time-consuming than tourism-based economies need to develop and enhance modern technological advancement. And virtual tourism has also been neglected so far in many government policies, so there's a need for serious attention towards it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pallavi, for your presentation. I now invite Mr. Tanmay Sharma from Sophia Girls College, Ajmer. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology.
So before I start, I would like to say something that we are living in really funny times. And the moment if I say funny times, I simply mean that we are living in such times wherein pyasa kuएं के पास नहीं जा रहा है, but it is vice versa situation there. So similar to this, my topic that I've chosen has also been my topic for my PhD thesis. And this is a case study I've just written. This is a developing virtual tourism, and this is specific to the case study of performance of the Devnarayan Fund. I'll try to unfold it and exactly tell you how and why can we utilize this particular aspect of virtual tourism there. So this is a picture that I have taken already in my field visits, one of the field visits that I had done. And in the backdrop, you would see that there is a curtain kind of a curtain basically who's painted, and there are several hundreds paintings there. And these are the people, these are the people who are singing it, that locally known as the bhopas. So basically, I've divided the whole presentation in pertaining to the basic questions that what exactly is a FUD, or what exactly is the performance of the Devnarayan FUD. So what is it? So this is brief description here. The folk epic of Bagrawat Devnarayan is a famous epic in Rajasthan. So first of all, it is one of those folk epics, and it has been transcended from generation to generation for the past 350 years. This it's quite a unpopular yet popular tradition in the central part of Rajasthan. This epic is a special kind of a kavya, and by kavya I simply mean that it tells exactly the verses which have been only sung and have never been presented in any written kind of form. So this is one of those special kavyas which have been there, and people have learned about it only through the means of shrutis and smritis, just the part of remembering and singing. So this, what exactly a FUD is? A FUD is a kind of a mobile temple that can be carried along in the deserts, can be carried away with that be carried along with the bhopas from one place to another. If I contextually tell you that right now, I would call it that it is a modern day live presentation, which has a bigger screen of somewhere around 30 feet, and that presentation is nothing but it's painted with all over with the Devnarayan and the Bagrawat epic. So this has obviously a particular and very specific nuances that are need to be done for making this whole curtain, or this FUD to be precise. It involves a lot of colors, a lot of pictures, varying sized figures, that of the main goddess, main god. And surprisingly, it is also that I just forgot to mention here that Devnarayan is a folk deity in Rajasthan, which is specially venerated as god by the Gujar community. Gujar is a community here and in the northern part of India, and especially the central part of India as well. So it is basically the deity of the Gujars, and this is his whole life sketch that has been painted in the form of a FUD. Now, who does it exactly involve? All the FUD. It involves the bhopa, one who sings it, the painter who paints it, the audience is obviously, and the audience has served as a medium to take it forward, to take it this long for the past 350, 400 years, this tradition. And the patrons included in this, that who exactly are the patrons. So it has not only been a significant means to entertainment, but it has also engaged its followers somehow and helped them enough to decipher exactly that where they had come from and that why are they following this particular faith. So this is what is exactly a FUD about. Now, moving on to the Next part. This particular part entails the rural and the virtual tourism and amalgamation. So we have been discussing through and through that rural tourism has been required, and it has given boost to the tourism sector as well. But unfortunately, we are living in again very unprecedented times, and what comes next, we are completely unaware of it. So rural tourism as an option which has obviously tried to bring someone forth who have been there and residing in the rural areas, and it has been taken as an alternative form of tourism. So what exactly is rural tourism? I've just at the moment of people from their normal place of residence to rural areas for a minimum period of 24 hours, and it can last for about 6 months. And the purpose is mainly leisure and pleasure, so both of these. Now, India's vast culture enables it to develop and incentivize on the unused rural cultural resources that has been always been neglected. And someone already mentioned that would require few policies that require change and developing for especially to the rural tourism there. So rural tourism in India has been quite advantageous, especially in relation to the discrete heritage, the heritage, not tangible and non-tangible, that has been not been covered up and not been brought up into limelight again. Just for example, I'll just give a short example here. The block printers, those who are the block artists there, and especially from Bagru, Rajasthan, and is a classic example where the dying art has been revived because of the introduction of the rural tourism, especially in Rajasthan. Similarly, the idea of this paper, the whole presentation, is that the performance of Devnarayan can be taken up, and the village where this particular study was conducted, that is Gopalpura and Shahpura, and which fall in the Bhilwara district of Rajasthan, it can give impetus to the already struggling art form, this folk art form particularly. Now the question arises that why do we need it? And there are few answers to this. Like I said again, that we are living in the most unprecedented times. We have no clue at what may happen in the coming time, in the coming recent times. So why should we develop a kind of a virtual tourism and along with mixed with the rural tourism? Maybe because it seems like a viable option for the times to come. It is indeed one of those times where this particularly the rural tourism and the cultural, the virtual tourism, it looks more promising to us. Secondly, it eliminates the risks generated through the COVID-19 crisis. We have been hearing for these 2 days that what do we have to do, what do we have to not do, and other things of the same sort. So it is trying to eliminate all those risks that may be generated because of the crisis. Thirdly, smart tourism.
If you can sum up quickly,
I'll just try that. So smart tourism with the help of Internet of Things, uses in the users, increase in the internet users, etc., etc. And how do we do it? That is one of the most important questions. And it is because it is through those virtual tours that we have been talking about. So I would not obviously discuss that what exactly are those virtual tours, but to sum it up, I would say that these virtual tours have been very efficient in one way, and for the countries, for like Denmark, I had an article related to this, and Denmark offers its virtual tours under the remote tourism or virtual vacation kind of a thing. There are other few sources that I have tried to mention here outside online, Little Letters, Link, Travel with Live Stream. All these are sources that can be obviously taken forward for this particular virtual tourism. For whom it is, obviously, it is required that those who are immensely in love with art, any sort of art form, the foreign and indigenous tourists that are looking to see the real India and not real India. It can be useful for the ethnographers, the ethnomusicologists, the research scholars particularly. It can be some education tours can be conducted, historians, followers, crowds, etc. Obviously, there have been some challenges as well, and I would like to sum it up here only that there have been few challenges which are again of the utmost kind of nature, and unfortunately that we have not come across the virtual tourism packages in India per se, and thus we would be having a lot of challenges and a lot of problems with that. So again, but it is again seems a viable option not only for the present times but also for the times to come, and this is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tanmay. important notice that our guest speaker, Professor Rashbihari Prasad Singh, former Vice Chancellor, Patna University, has arrived. So the remaining participants who are about to give their presentations, I request again and again to keep their presentation very limited to up to 4 minutes so that we can begin the guest lecture thereafter. So now moving forward to the next presenter, we would now invite Ms. Manisha Prasad and Ms. Amrita Prakash from Department of Computer Science, Patna Women's College, to begin their presentation.
Good afternoon and warm welcome to all. Today, Amrita and I from Department of Computer Science, Patna Women's College are here to present a paper on effectiveness of virtual reality on tourism. Virtual reality is a 3D system which enables the users to interact with objects in a computer-generated environment utilizing their senses. The aim is to generate an experience which is indistinguishable from the real world. It allows someone to fully immerse themselves in highly visual world which they explore by the means of their senses. Today, virtual reality is implemented using computer technology. There are a range of systems that are used for this purposes, such as VR headsets, omnidirectional cameras, special gloves, etc. These are used to actually stimulate our senses together in order to create the illusion of reality. Implementation of virtual reality manages to get the combination of hardware, software, and sensory synchronicity just right to achieve something known as the sense of presence. VR headsets typically provide the most realistic virtual reality experience for the user. A headset uses specialist software which tracks the movement of user's head. Two autofocus lenses are generally placed between the screen and the eyes that adjust based on individual eye movement and positioning. The visuals on the screen are rendered either using a mobile or a PC. By using a headphone and 3D sound effects, the users believe in the virtual environment. Sound effects, when synced with the visuals, can create a very engaging effect. While crafting sound effects, due care is taken about the consistency between the graphics and the sound to create a synchronized effect. Tourism eye and head tracking is ensured using laser pointers, LED lights, and mobile sensors. Different gadgets are used to detect 3D movements and identify the relative position on the earth. This slide shows that tourism is one of the leading sectors using virtual reality, and it is growing day by day. Different applications of virtual reality are virtual tours, virtual booking interface, meeting the needs of the modern customers, virtual reality travel experiences, VR tourism content for the social media, 5D and 7D theaters. Now I hand over to Amrita to continue further.
Thank you, ma'am. Virtual reality and tourism. Travel and tourism industry has started adopting the virtual reality technology to maximize customer engagements and enhance the customer-centric marketing methods. Few examples of countries predominantly using virtual reality in tourism are London, Paris, Prague, etc. Virtual tourism in marketing. The most common way in which VR is utilized is the tourism industry for marketing. One of the greatest strengths of VR is allowing the user to experience the feeling of being there. The techniques of VR in tourism refers to interactive images or videos which enable the viewer to explore the entire 360 degrees of a scene. VR in tourism photography involves the production of 360-degree images of travel destinations. It works much like a VR tourism video, but with a still images and can be viewed on regular devices such as mobiles and desktops. Let's have a glimpse. This is a photograph. I'm scrolling and swiping the images to show you the entire scene with my mouse. let's just see the effective virtual reality on different aspects of tourism. Travel agencies use VR technology for their clients to choose their tour locations. Virtual reality is for travelers also. They can experience the locations before actually going to that particular place. They can explore the past also. In this 51% people find VR technology very appealing to choose their holiday destinations. 50% of people would use VR as a tool for choosing their holiday destination, provided it was free. These are some statistics showing the growth rate of VR in the usage of world tourism. A small survey was conducted using form and analyzed using thematic analysis. Around 161 responses were collected and evaluated on the age group of 20 to 65. 83.2% people are aware of VR. Almost 50% people have seen 360-degree view of photo or videos. Findings show a positive attitude towards the use of virtual reality in the tourism context. The prospective travelers showed an inclination towards the VR for planning their tours. In Indian tourism, though people are aware of VR technology, but still they are mostly using Google search to select their destination and hotels. VR technology can be used effectively by VR travel experiences for elderly, VR flight experiences, and lastly, we come to a conclusion that traveling is life, and those who can't travel or who plans to travel with a broader idea, then virtual reality is the lifeline. Also, we can say that the VR tourism can't replace actual tourism, but definitely support tourism. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Moving forward, I would now invite Ms. Vitika Salomi from Georgia. Ms. Vitika Salomi, all the way from Georgia, has connected. Over to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, everybody. Good afternoon.
Seeing how media could play a role in revival of the hospitality sector, and most of us have seen these photographs of empty streets during the coronavirus pandemic. These are just some statistics how the hospitality sector has, plunged from $700 billion industry to $500 billion. These are my basic 5 suggestions for the hospitality sector, how they can use media to spring back. One of them would be going digital. Another is they could plan social media campaigns. For this, they can use user-generated content. Also, help from travel journalists and influencers can be taken. And there are certain innovative applications that have come up over the last few months, which can be used for this purpose. Just briefly, we could see what these are. If you talk of going digital, it is that you need to ensure your consistent web presence, keep the websites updated, use innovative messages, not just talk about, coming to that place, but right now, the tone of the message also matters. What are you actually trying to say to the people, and basically make your destination one of the most important ones which they would like to visit once the lockdown is over, even if they are not able to visit it right now. You could use multiple media channels. Since advertising budgets are down, social media is one of the best way to right now go about this, and stay connected and engage with your customers. When we plan social media campaigns, they could monitor and moderate your social media presence continuously. Respond as quickly as possible to the queries of your customers. Optimum utilization of resources such as live streaming and photos and videos. And see what your past campaigns have done for you on social media and plan accordingly. When we talk of social media campaigns, user-generated content has come up as one of the most prominent. It would likely play a very prominent role in the coming days. This is a very cost-effective method, and most importantly, people trust. Instead of coming from the organization, if it comes from people who have actually visited there, or people who are there locally involved, that would be more trustworthy for the audiences. So some of the ways in which you could utilize user-generated content would be online contests, etc., where it's not necessary that you always give away a prize. Even something as simple as featuring as the face of the month, even that could do the job for you. And local places could always be promoted, show what is being done locally. Help from travel journalists and influencers can always be taken. They usually will tell you how people are going about their travel plans, so you could monitor how people are planning for their travels. Spokespersons for social accounts would be like we have in print media, editors of for a day. That kind of stuff can be there always. That you can ask influencers or travel journalists to take over your social media account for a day and see how they can play around with it. And when we talk of some innovative applications, Arogya Setu app has already been introduced in India. That's there. Apart from that, there are several other apps. One another is Siddhartha Travel Safe app, which is a platform where you can do all your travel planning real time, and then there are automatic safety check-ins. You don't need to touch and that kind of stuff. So that's about it. Mostly, if you go keep these things in mind, probably this could be one of the ways in which the travel and tourism industry can take a little less time in bouncing back. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your presentation. I would now invite Dr. Runu Ravi.
A very good afternoon to sir. And my paper is titled A Virtual History of Culture, History and Mythology, a study through select Hindi films. Okay. And the paper has pointed out on the fact that the COVID pandemic has thrown lives out of gear, and travel enthusiastic planning has now been dominated by a risk factor. So because this risk factor dominates, what happens? People are afraid to plan. And so here we can have a kind of you can take a kind of inspiration from Bollywood, which has always been successful in presenting the culture, history and mythology of India through its storyline weaving. Let me give you some examples. For example, you see beautiful portrayals of culture through Bollywood films such as Lamhe and Paheli, which give you vivid descriptions of Rajasthan culture, dress, food, cuisine, everything. Then you have Door and Guide, Bobby, Trikal and Pestunji, Fana, Rang de Basanti and Rab Ne Banadi Jori, which give you a wonderful show of the Golden Temple and Manji the Mountain Man. When it comes to history, some significant depictions down the ages are Shaheed, Amrapali, Mughal-e-Azam, Jodha Akbar, Padmavat, Kesari and Tanhaji. And in the modern age, Border, Airlift, Paltan, Parmanu and Mission Mangal. In mythology, we have films like Raja Harishchandra, Sampurna Ramayana and Jai Santoshi Ma, as well as the very recent Kedarnath. If you see films like Aapki Kasam, Avatar, Fiza and Haider, you will find that the film Avatar has the song Chalo Bulawa Aaya Hai, which shows the entire pilgrimage of the Vaishno Devi shrine, and the song Pia Haji Ali in Fiza gives you an almost surreal description, everything visible at the Haji Ali Dargah, Mumbai. Films like Kabhi Kabhi, Mission Kashmir, Ishq Ishq Ishq, Joshile, Hare Rama Hare Krishna have given you a virtual tour of exotic locations like Jammu and Kashmir, Leh and Ladakh, Kathmandu, Assam and Meghalaya. So how do we make use of this Bollywood technique? It is time to combine technology and intelligence together to promote virtual tourism. This we will see that the health factor, the prime fare, does not exist at all, and enthusiastic employees who are now sitting stagnant will be motivated. So what will be the most important strategy at present? The IT cell, functional in the hospitality and tourism sector, could create interesting videos assimilating all the available material. The tourist guides or even the drivers appointed by the hotels could provide the voiceover or a commentary, lending the non-professional desi touch. Some of the experienced waiters could also be roped in to give their experiences. And you can also count upon your loyal customers who have been visiting your hotels and tourist destinations in the past to give their feedback. All this will promote tourism in the near future, because the chances of what will happen now are not exactly known to us. So at the same time, the PR who have been promoting the tours and travel videos and brochures on the mail generally could also circulate this kind of videos and web tours. Sponsorship and advertisements could also be added to the videos. And later, if it is needed, some charges can also be levied depending upon the need, the acceptance, and the receptibility. Everything depends upon how the COVID pandemic is going to affect the world. But at this point, the health factor looms large. No matter how much precaution the hotels give, and we must keep something in mind that everybody cannot have the budget for a hotel which provides all this kind of, health and hygiene kits and techniques. And remember that whatever precautions the hotels are taking, the budget has to be limited. If they are not getting any government subsidy, it is the customer who has to pay somehow for this extra effort that the hotels are taking, and it is going to pinch the budget of the middle class traveler basically. So if we combine this trick, this technique that Bollywood has been adopting, we can also have some kind of clips taken from these films, not the whole film, and the tourist, the probable tourist is the correct word, is transported into these worlds, as they have been doing when the hero and a heroine break for a dance. We also are transported to Switzerland. So we will also feel that we are in Kashmir. And because the COVID pandemic is right now very, very sharp, so we can plan. At least the planning is also possible. Everything that the hospitality sector is trying right now depends upon the efforts, the desires, the needs, and the plans that the probable customer is going to take in the near future. Merely giving them planning and policies is not going to entice them. This virtual tourism, this kind of tourism which they have been having, and as I have pointed out, you have mythology, you have history, and you have culture. You can have it as also as an educational tour. You show the movie Padmavat to a child. You show the movie Jodha Akbar. Don't concentrate on the storyline. Concentrate on how the historical monuments have been presented.
We appreciate your creative approach in
yes,
doing the research.
I'm coming to my summing. Yes. And I believe that this three-pronged approach with reliance on Bollywood, if it may be allowed, will give entertainment, enjoyment, and also employment. Which is the hope for the near future in these troubled times. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, ma'am. So with this, we have come to the closure of the second technical session. And I must appreciate all the paper presenters who have cooperated with me in steering and moving forward to come to the conclusion for this session. I may now request all the paper presenters to open their video so that we can have a group photograph virtually. Please open your videos.
Videos and mute.
And you can put your mic on mute. You quickly have a screen grab. So now we would move ahead with the closing session. But before that, we'd like to give a 5 minutes break to the participants to relax and drink water, because it's been a long and tiring day for all of us. So just 5 minutes, and thereafter we would join for the closing session. And we have decided to put the feedback link on the Zoom webinar chat. So during the closing session, participants can find the feedback link. They can click on that link and give their feedbacks and register their presence. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all, and welcome back. Before we start, there is a small important announcement. Dear participants, we have opened a feedback form. Kindly check the chat box for the feedback link. By clicking on the link, you can open the feedback form, and this form will be open for the next 30 minutes. Kindly make sure that you have entered your names and other details in the correct format. This data will be used in your e-certificate. Thank you so much. Now let's begin the closing ceremony. May I request Dr. Amrita Chaudhary, Coordinator, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Patna Women's College, to kindly present the recommendation. Over to you, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to our esteemed guest, Professor R.B.P. Singh, former Vice Chancellor, Patna University, our respected Principal, Dr. Sister M. Rashmi A.C., the learned resource persons, and all the participants joined with us virtually from different parts of the globe. The fruitful deliberations and lively discussions during the last 2 days of the online international conference have come up with a number of relevant recommendations which might help the policymakers and concerned authorities to draw up strategies and formulate action plans in the field of tourism and hospitality. Some of the important recommendations are: there is an urgent need to boost automation, mechanization, digitalization, and artificial intelligence to make the tourism industry a least contact process. The hotel sector needs to change its operational process drastically, with increasing emphasis on social and physical distancing. The local domestic tourist destinations are to be developed, including villages, countrysides, and the less explored locations. Special bailout economic package and financial support are required to be initiated by the government that may include incentives for the aviation sector and travel companies, and targeted loans and grants for the travel and tourism agencies. Stimulus packages are to be designed and executed in forms of tax relief measures, wage subsidies, and need-based grants to cover rent and lease payments. The hospitality sector needs to develop and implement consolidated medical infrastructure, health insurance schemes, and new normal sanitization protocol. And lastly, the more innovative and creative options are to be adopted on a larger basis in the tourism sector, such as virtual tourism, eco-sustainable tourism, and ethical tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now may I request Dr. Sister M. Rashmi A.C., Principal, Patna Women's College, to kindly give the closing remark. Over to you, sister.
A very good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon to all of you participants. It was really a heartwarming experience to see your enthusiastic response to our announcement regarding this conference. Within 3 days, we received around 60 abstracts for the presentation, but after we selected about 30 papers, we stuck to that, and due to shortage of time, we said we would remain with 30 papers. Thanks to our eminent resource persons for their excellent input sessions, and to each one of you for your wholehearted participation. Today, I'm extremely happy and privileged to have Professor Rashbihari Prasad Singh, former Vice Chancellor, Patna University. He was the most sought after teacher. And I would like to tell you, I was fortunate to be his student. He is our mentor and a great visionary of our time, and of course, an inspiration to all of us at Patna Women's College. During his tenure as the Vice Chancellor of Patna University and under his patronage, Patna Women's College was conferred autonomous status, and we shall ever remain grateful to you, sir, for your constant support and encouragement we received from time to time. It has no doubt induced us to go ahead in our endeavor to achieve excellence in curricular and extracurricular activities of the college. COVID-19, no doubt, has restricted us in many ways, but has opened many opportunities and different platforms to express ourselves or to think of something out of the box, as we can see these days. A web conference or a webinar was not the best thing we would think of if we were to organize a national or international seminar in a normal situation when there would be no travel restrictions. However, from the past experience of organizing many seminars and workshops in our college, I realized that the participation would be limited to closer states or closer countries. Now, coming to this two-day web conference, I was happy to see persons from USA, New Zealand, and of course from different states in our country, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Assam, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Goa, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, to name a few. So the lockdown and the pandemic has enabled us to connect from distances virtually. This is the new normal for me today. And we learn to cope with this pandemic. So as one of the resource persons said yesterday, it is no more capability that counts, but copability that matters. It is more of survival of the fittest than it is no more survival of the fittest, but it is survival of the quickest to adjust to the new situations that may arise. Travel and hospitality industry is the worst hit in this present scenario, but I'm sure it will be the first to bounce back to normal once things are settled. We have already listened to some of the recommendations or the takeaways of this conference. We shall hope to see you all again on a web conference or a webinar or an online workshop, even when we return to normal. Thank you all once again, and my deepest gratitude to you, sir, for consenting to join us on this platform today. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. It was a very strong message. Now today, we are honored and highly motivated by the presence of Professor Raj Bihari Prasad Singh, former Vice Chancellor, Patna University, Patna, Bihar. A gold medalist for the bachelor's and the master from Patna University, Professor Singh has been a great scholar of geography and a brilliant teacher. Holding a long span of 46 years of service, he has been an efficient administrator as well. He has been a Pro-Vice Chancellor, Nalanda Open University, Patna. He has been adorned with several prestigious posts such as a head, PG Department of Geography, Proctor, Patna University, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor of Nalanda Open University, and Vice Chancellor, Patna University. He is an active member of many academic bodies. He has been serving in several state-level committees for higher education. He has been felicitated and awarded many times. The list is very big. He is a founder General Secretary, Association of Geographers, Bihar and Jharkhand. This academic and administrative experience is something we need to look forward and get inspired. Not taking much of your time, may I request Professor Raj Bihari Prasad Singh, former Vice Chancellor, Patna University, Patna, Bihar, to kindly give the closing address. Over to you, sir.
Thanks for appreciating words. Dear participants of this international seminar on COVID-19, global pandemics, and the tourism hospitality related challenges it's discussing for 2 days. At the outset, I express sincere thanks to the principal of the college and the entire organizing body of the college who considered me fit for today's concluding session in the well-active session. Dear participants, I'm happy to know that participants are from different parts of the world, and but also hearing carefully recommendations. They are very logical, constructive, and maybe helpful to the agencies who are involved in planning the tour and travel programs. But moreover, I would also suggest the organizers to send a copy of Ministry of Tourism and Tourism Department, Government of Bihar, who also are very much concerned how to revive tourism economy. And you see, the entire globe is now passing through a new or very critical phase of the survival of mankind with the present height of success or achievements. We have done a lot of achievements. We are planning to land on Mars. We have already landed on Moon, and in many spatial technologies, celestial fields, we are doing a lot. But what happened? A viral attack had made all of us helpless. An attack by such, whether it is living, unliving, yet to be known perfectly or precisely. Science has failed. Science has not been able to find is really living or non-living. But such invisible viral attack has made the entire world surrendered, practically surrendered. Economy, development, travelings, meeting each other's, and this Corona-19 is now, I think all of you are knowing, is covering now 198 countries. You see, 220, 23, 21 countries are there, 198, and who are not being affected? Only the small, teeny island countries, all inland. Again, you see the problem of this viral attacks, even the coldest countries and the hottest countries. You see, the equatorial country, Brazil, has now become the hottest spot, worst affected, and a very cold country, you see the Russia is another hottest spot. Russia in the cold polar regions, Brazil in the equatorial regions, Switzerland on the mountain tops, and the plainland India, and many other Ukraine, the plain countries. Everywhere, Corona has affected the life, affected the systems, and real challenge is how to live with it. One challenge is that it must be, or the society must be made free from this Corona disease, because got success in many viral attacks in the history of mankind. Spanish flu perhaps has the worst effect. We all are optimistic. Things will come. We shall win over this. But right now, you see, life cycle, survival cycle cannot be stopped, cannot be given a break. Only alternative routes can be found. Only the alternative arrangements could be made. So, friends, participants, tourism economy is also one of such. You see, in the tourism economy, about 150 crore persons had traveled in the year 2019 across the world. If you take India, more than 10 crore, you see, foreign tourists came here, and more than 100 crore. If you take the total visits, repeated visits, one Indian tourist visited from one time from Patna to Goa, other time Patna to Ayodhya, third time to some other place. Then if you take them together, it comes more than or about 100 crore. 100 crore bookings were made in India, 130 crore persons. So one thing becomes very clear, that traveling, visit to different places, and mainly in India, if you take mainly the religion is one of the factors. But even for others, tourism economy, not a productive economy, but has emerged such a powerful economy that it contributed, if you 18-19 financial year, nearly 9.2% in the total GDP of India. Friends, India just has 21 lakh crores package to meet the corona attack. And that is about 10% of our GDP. So what GDP contribution tourism has, almost the same amount or same percentage of contribution government is now spending or has decided to give as a package over the crisis caused by COVID-19. So what is important, this economy needs to survive because human have the heritage or the inborn character of humans, mankind. They cannot remain at one place. Then it is not a social, not a Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens behavior is that earlier they were wandering, they were traveling. Then now the selective travelings in the name of tourism we practice. So, dear participants, what I am telling you now, when the corona is not going to be over in a period, vaccines are to be developed or other things are to be done, that take time, but cannot bring a standstill or total check over the tourism economy. You see, tourism or even circular, if you take the corona circular, the 4 important circulars are there. See the guidelines or manuals. First, don't travel all over the world. Almost all countries have given. Do not travel. Keep your traveling plan in abeyance. First one. Second, stay at home. You need not to go outside. Third, maintain the physical distance or social distance. Fourth is make greater or maximum use of sanitizers. The 4 guidelines are there. You have to plan your entire lifestyle, entire routine, activities under these 4 guidelines. Tourism, if you take, they say, no, you cannot cancel your travel. Without traveling, you cannot tourism experiences. So traveling is to be conducted. You cannot stay. If you are staying, then there is no tourism economy. In the tourism economy, physical distance is nothing like. We enjoy that in the cultural gatherings, hotel gatherings, site visits, everywhere. Physical distance or social distance can, rather tourism is a kind of economy which promotes global community concepts, global village concepts, or to bring the society, culture together. So in that context, or even during corona, immediate traveling or tourism and traveling manuals, guidelines are to be redrafted. There is a tremendous economic loss. Then if you take the present trend, it is estimated that in 2020, I think you have discussed this, about 20 to 30% loss has already taken place due to coronavirus. For March, April, May, for the continuously for 3 months, there has been no operation. Tour and travel agencies have almost not performed their operation. So 25 to 30% loss has already occurred. In such situations, what new manuals, what new guidelines are required, that is important. You have suggested one, of course, is that the packages are to be given, support, but what I am emphasizing is that they themselves have to give a completely different guidelines so that tourists can come out from the house, can go and book and travel. So in this case, presently, right now, tourist agencies, operators, government guidelines all over must take into account 3 important parameters or 3 important facts. First, there must be priority areas. Now, every area cannot be priority area. So, tourist destination should be identified, and instead of taking anywhere bookings, reservations, only selected areas are to be given to the to those who are willing to travel. Like you see, you cannot recommend now to go to New York, Lombardy in Italy, or even the Madrid, even in India, to Mumbai becoming a hot spot. So there are some hot spots. You cannot suggest Manaus in Brazil, even the Rio de Janeiro. These are the places which cannot be suggested immediately. So first guideline must give on their sites that avoid visiting those places. Rather, there are other areas where the effect is very limited. So they be other countries like have not much effect. Marshall Islands have not much effect. So you need to find out new areas. Travel agencies also look into the physical or the health condition of the tourists. For the years, or at least during the corona phase, everybody should not be allowed, whether he is willing or proper medical check is required. I think you have also recommended that the insurance, medical, not only insurance. So what I was telling, the smaller groups are to be promoted for conducting the tour plan. So once the smaller group, not only the smaller groups, when you create smaller groups, then the number of transport services particularly would increase. So again, a distance is to be maintained within the plane, bus, railway, whatever is used. So here it is important, some package is needed to the operating agencies, to the hotel sectors and others, because once the distance is maintained, where in the plane, for example, 325 passengers were to be travels, you have to take only about 200. In that case, that loss is to be somehow to be compensated. It is very important, you see, you cannot increase burden over the travelers, over the tourists. Once you increase the burden over the tourists, large number of tourists all over the world are from the middle income groups. They would not be able to take the plan, and they may keep their touring proposal to tour in abeyance for the time to come when the cost is within their reach. So that is important. Third important part, very important part in there, hospitality. At the hotel or at the stay center or at the site, venue where they're going to visit. So hospitality, immediate hospitality needs more sanitization care. Physical distance, sanitization, food. So their manual is again to be changed. That is required. Otherwise, you cannot get guarantee or cannot give guarantee to the travelers or to the groups who come there. So, for example, I am giving you, when the traveler groups arrive at a hotel, hotel needs to develop sanitizing tunnels. Like, you see, you make the welcome gate. Instead of welcome gate, you develop a tunnel, sanitizing tunnels. So you enter in the hotels, you are sanitized. Similarly, at the site, suppose someone is going to Konark visits, before entering the venue, again the sanitizer tunnels are required. So the person or the travelers, whoever are involved, feel a sense of confidence that there is no chance, any chance of infection of any kinds. Similarly, you cannot stop the evening programs, light and sound, cultural programs. There, the seating arrangements are to be made in such a way that the physical distance is maintained. All entertainments, all enjoyments with maintaining the sitting distance would be really enjoyable to that. So revival of tourism needs these kinds of, not only that, what I'm telling you, even all the operating agencies, earlier even they had the first aid box. That is not enough. Now at every hotel, at every site, there must be well-equipped team of medical experts, so that even if there is any kind of any symptoms of having high fever or any kind, immediately the checkup is taken up. It will not only related to corona. You see, if you develop health care insurance, healthcare facility at every site. Site means the place where visit, and in every hotel, I'm telling you, in the long perspective, it will immensely promote the tourism, because healthcare is so important. So even some kind of medicinal support should also be given once the tour program starts, for maintaining and improving the body immunity, or immunity system should also be protected by food support, by medical supports, and the prescription supports. Some tablets, some other supports. So, dear participants, what I'm telling you, entire tour and travel manual needs to be changed to give a new kind of attraction to the travelers who have been in the passive stage. They are to be encouraged, and the tourism is to be revived with a new kind of experiments, new kind of services, new kind of facilities. And we all have to keep in mind, only the high income group cannot maintain this rising trend of tourism all over the world. You see, if you see the World Tourism Organization, they had expected by 2030, 180 crore persons would conduct the travelings for the tourism purposes. So that strategy is to be maintained, and for maintaining that and that acceleration trends, this is just a gap period, but new manual, new directions, new investments, new attractions would, I'm sure, would bring the tourism economy on the track of growing for the future, bring the futures, and COVID-19 will be left far, far behind. We get a new life. With these words, I thank you all inviting me and giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed very strong message that you have sent to us, and it was an absolute pleasure listening to you. Now, may I request Professor Sala Yasmin, Dean, Academic, Faculty of Science, Patna Women's College, to kindly give vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Patna Women's College family, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Raj Bihari Prasad Singh, former Vice Chancellor of Patna University, for gracing the closing session of the 2 days online international conference on COVID-19 pandemic and world tourism, hospitality, trends, challenges, and future prospects, organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of this college. Sir, it is always a pleasure listening to you. You being a renowned scholar and academician, as well as an able administrator. We are highly impressed by your words of wisdom and the positive aura you carry with you. You have always supported us in all of our endeavors. Your suggestions today will surely be considered. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I express my profound gratitude to our beloved principal, Dr. Sister Maria Rashmi AC. She has been on her toes throughout the lockdown period. motivating the teachers to learn skills and become active on the online platform to adapt to in order to adapt to the changing scenario due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, sister, for always enthusing us. Special thanks to Dr. Sister Tanisha AC, Vice Principal, Patna Women's College, for the prayer. That was the key to unlocking God's blessings. Deep sense of appreciation for the eminent resource persons. Professor Amar Eron Tiga, Director, Xavier Institute of Social Service, Ranchi. Professor Moshimi Datta, Vice Principal, Nagindas Khandwala College, Mumbai. Dr. Francis Ejikam, Professor of Finance, Accounting and Economics at Employ, New Zealand Tertiary Institute, New Zealand. Professor Vimal Kumar Ekka, School of Hospitality Management, SVKM's Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, for sharing their knowledge and elaborating on the new normal during and post-COVID-19 period. Thanks to the most valued paper presenters for sharing their research findings with us. Planning of an event doesn't happen overnight. It requires months and weeks. We are fortunate to have a team of highly motivated IQAC members, especially Dr. Amrita Chaudhary, Coordinator, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, and Mr. Alok John, Assistant Coordinator, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, who have planned and executed this event meticulously. A big thank you to the moderators, Dr. Aprajita Krishna, Dr. Sufia Fatima, Dr. Amrita Chaudhary, Mr. Alok John, Dr. Pallavi, and Ms. Poonam Abraham Lakra for managing the different sessions so well. At the end, I would like to thank all the technical staff who worked behind the scene to make the conference successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Once again, we wish to see you all for the next webinar or web conference. Thank you so much, participants and all the coordinators, IQAC members. Thank you. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you, sister. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to all.
Now to end this ceremony, may I request you all to kindly stand up from your place for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you all. I believe you all must have submitted your feedback form. Once you have submitted, very shortly you'll be receiving on your e-certificates. Keep checking your mail. And I guess this was a dire treasure trove for all of us around the globe. Hope you all have become a bit richer by investing this time in enriching us. Thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay happy, and stay safe. Best wishes from Patna Women's College. Thank you so much.